Where's my mic? Oh, there it is. Okay, party people. Today's the day. If you missed the stream yesterday, hi VOD people. I know that you didn't because you guys are dedicated VOD watchers. Who am I kidding? The plan for today is to cover that Reverie panel hosted by Prime Kai. We're going to particularly be looking at the performance of, let me check my notes here, Vaush, Prime Kai, MX Vivian Wolf, Destiny, and the person who said that George Bush was fascist. I'm not going to enjoy this one. I'm going to be real with you. I have some notes ready. Maybe we could look at the first 20 minutes to get an understanding of how the entirety of the conversation winds up playing out. Yeah, I'll be honest, I skipped a little bit in the middle because I just am not fucking watching this entire thing. I did skip to after Vaush left and just before that to make sure I understood that part of it. And I did watch, I think the first hour. But yeah, there's a little bit in the middle that I didn't do just because this is honestly unbearable. And it's unbearable because of, the conversational choices these people are making, the format of panels. It's like the same shit I always talk about. Which is part of why in the last VOD I talked about how I don't know if I want to keep doing this as much anymore. Nobody's getting better. The problems are just going to keep happening over and over. And I'm a guy that once I see the patterns in something over and over and over again, I get really bored, really, really quick. And this is a good example of that. They've bored me to death. And what's unfortunate is, I don't have the ignorance anymore to hold out hope that the conversational potential of all these people would be realized. What I mean by that is, initially, I used to think that there's so much potential for a good conversation to happen between these people. To have Destiny, who knows what he knows, and Vaush, who knows what he knows, and Prime, who has his experience moderating, and Pisco and his law background. There's a lot of very interesting, intelligent people with interesting backgrounds who could really contribute to these discussions in meaningful ways. And I think it's up to some combination of a producer and a moderator to facilitate those discussions, to make them happen, to police when they get out of hand. Now, I've also learned, though, that people don't really like a moderator that does that, so maybe I'm more so referring to the position of a host. Given that you have this show where you want to have these people on and have interesting content, I think Prime means it to be this fighting and stuff. So that's what he's going for. And that's certainly what he sets up with a lot of the topics, right? I don't normally try to focus on the moderators and stuff, even when they're not great, in my opinion, right? I tried not to focus on the SERPs in the Wolf discussion. I oftentimes try not to give any criticism to Prime or Dylan when I watch their stuff. If anything, I try to praise them because their job is very difficult. And no matter which way they do it, I think people are going to be upset with them and give them a lot of criticism. So I'm very sympathetic to the moderators. However, I think that in this case, Prime, the way that he set this up, the way that he handles interruptions and stuff here, directly contributes to this conversation going south in the way that it does. So that's kind of important to note here, which is why Prime will be one of the people that we look at here, albeit briefly. That's the basic preview. That's the TLDW, I guess, in this case. I'm going to play some music by PictoChat. If you're interested in that person's information, you can do !Picto. Commands work in both the YouTube and the Twitch chat, both of which I have in front of me in real time, so don't worry about not getting seen. If you would like to donate or subscribe or do a super chat on YouTube, we had a lot of those yesterday, and I'm super duper appreciative for that. It's helped to fund a lot of the kind of behind the scenes stuff that I want to do in Mexico that will soon be in the scenes stuff, I guess, because you guys will see them as videos. I'm recording those right now. I booked an appointment to go ride horseback down to the ocean and then have a nice lobster dinner, do some wine tasting, maybe take a tour down Baja California. So lots of cool stuff in store, in no small part thanks to the funding that we got yesterday. So if anybody wants to continue on that, I'm more than appreciative. Without further ado, I'll go ahead and start playing the music. Again, if you want that information, it's !Picto in either chat, and that'll bring that information up for you. We're going to play a bit of an oldie. We're going to play Satellite first, and then a new track from Picto. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and stick around. Talk to you guys in a bit. Bye. Again, that was Satellite by PictoChat. Really nice track. The next one we're going to play is a bit of a newie, but still from an oldie, PictoChat. This is... I love fucking anime
I really
voices.
love the formal reviews you do. I've learned a lot.
Thanks, Swordplay Knight. I appreciate it. That $10 is real fucking helpful, dude. That might just buy me food today, as a matter of fucking fact. You know what? I'm going to big time tip the Uber driver, and I might just order some Uber Eats because I haven't eaten all day. We'll see. Honestly, if I could get through this like really quick, like maybe within 2 or 3 hours, it probably won't be that big of a deal, and I can just go get food. But I appreciate it. Like I was saying, the next song is going to be titled Arigato datte bayo. Arigato datte bayo. You guys' timing on these are really funny. Thank you, Young Goong. I appreciate it. Or Young Goon G. I don't know. I'm not sure on that one. Anywho, without further ado, Woof 2, and then we'll get into it. What did you think of that? It's kind of short. It's kind of goofy. I liked it. They kind of warned me. Picto was like, I don't know if you're going to like this. This is something I've been cooking up. It's a little bit of an experiment. I liked it, so I figured I'd share it with you guys.
Hot book summer.
Yeah, Hot Book Summer. We're working on it, dude. We're working on it. As a matter of fact, as you're saying that, guess what I'm pumping? It's not my chin. I'm pumping some fucking iron right now. You guys, actually, you guys could see it. Hold on. Let me just... Yeah, you know, I just kind of casually pump iron as I'm getting ready to do these debate streams. Got to get the adrenaline going. Got to get some testosterone pumping out of my pituitary. You know, it's a lot of health stuff. You wouldn't understand, you fat fuck. Anywho. Oh, fuck. Whoops. I've done gone and dropped it. Ugh. But, yeah, so... I'm just dropping everything today. I need my notes. Hello, people. How are you doing? I did my hair a little bit differently today. I don't know if you can tell. I tried to, like... I don't know. I spent a bunch more time than I'm comfortable explaining, like playing with my hair and then wetting it and like redoing it and then playing with it again because I'm getting into the dating scene again, and I feel like I need to have a better like image of what I look like now, because in my brain I still look like I did. And I'm pretty sure a comedian made a joke about... Thank you for that. I'm pretty sure a comedian made a joke about this, but I think it was John Mulaney, if I remember correctly. But like, for a lot of people, your internal vision of what your body looks like or what it's capable of is tied to some like high school or middle school image of what it was able to do. I still have like a very like freshman year of high school or sophomore year of high school like view of what my body looks like. So I need to get more used to like with a rounder face, you know, because I'm fat, you know, what would be good for my hair? Should I do my eyebrows? You know, stuff like that. How do my clothes look? I'm just paying more attention to that now that I'm getting into the dating scene and trying to like get my bearings for the man that I am. So that's just something I've been doing. That's kind of an off-topic thing. So this panel, dude. This panel is painful. I don't know why I'm holding this mic when I have the stand, but it's a force of habit, dude. All these Mexico trips have trained me to like hold the mic and do it that way. Here, I'll lean this back and then we can just hang out a little bit here. Yeah, you guys are right in assuming that watching this video would drive me nuts. It most certainly did drive me nuts. It's a very, very not good showing for anybody involved, I would say. Like, well, I guess it depends on... But here's the thing. I've realized something, guys, and it's not something that I've like talked about on stream yet, but it's something that I will mention starting from this review onwards. When Steven says that he's working on rhetoric, I think what he means is I'm going to pay attention to the level at which the audience is listening to things, and I'm going to take more seriously talking to or making arguments for the audience specifically. This is different than how I look at it. And we'll kind of see that difference in opinion as we start to go through this. So he does things that I think rhetorically do not look good. They make him look like a jerk, but he's okay with looking like a jerk. He wants to invalidate the opinions of or make people look stupid. And so he's trying to accomplish that by focusing on making things clear to the audience rather than harping on what is already clear to him. And I guess it worked because you guys really didn't like how Vaush came off in this. I don't like how he comes off in it. I think rhetorically it's a big failure, but I don't think he fucks up as much as like Steven gives him shit about. It's like the fucking wolf thing. Like I just don't know if a lot of like the flack that he's getting is necessarily warranted, but I'm going to say this right now, you know, given that I'm kind of moving my way to like not doing as many reviews anymore, not doing line by line, not being uber fair with people. I will say this, given the way that Vaush has treated me, I don't really care to like go into this. And given the way that he performs in debates with the lying and stuff, I don't really care to go into this, go line by line, and demonstrate how at some points the criticisms Steven was levying were unfounded or were not exactly fair. I don't care to go and do that. And Vaush doesn't make my job any easier as well. But yeah, like this whole conversation's a fucking mess. Everybody's at different wavelengths. Everybody's trying to do something different. Everybody's fucking up. So I'm sure it's a fun one that you guys want to see me talk about, but, you know, you're an incel. You got this. Internet celebrity, you know? Don't call me an incel. Maybe I'm biased, but the long hair looks good on you. This look is good too, but just saying you have range. Yeah, I would agree. There's some range to it for sure. It's pretty abrasive all around. It most certainly is. I hate Prime's format. Why have 15 people on at the same time? Content. That's why, dude, because it's good content, right? Because you motherfuckers watch it, and then other streamers like me react to it. So he has no reason not to do that. He's off the rails. Watching the bridge burn in real time. You know what? Actually, now that I've like spoken this out loud, that's actually a very good point. I'm gonna follow Noam Chomsky's lead. I don't think I should cover panels live much anymore. I'm gonna start to go away from that. I know we've already done that. We don't do panels nearly as much as when we started, but yeah, any bit of support I lean to these formats that I really think are just unproductive and not helpful, I think boosts something that probably shouldn't be boosted. Now, you could make the argument that what we're gonna do today is sort of like what people do when they argue with Nazis, which is make them look like fools, hopefully. But it wastes my time and energy, and I don't want to waste my time and energy, as we discussed yesterday. For those of you that missed yesterday, we talked a little bit about how some content changes are going to come. Definitely keep an eye on the YouTube, because we're going to be doing more stuff on the YouTube now than we did before. And they're going to be interesting things. I have a bunch of footage that I'm trying to work through and that I'm recording here in Tijuana in Mexico. I'm going to, like I said at the beginning of the stream, go do a bunch of fun stuff, record it, talk about it, voiceover, have my editor help me put that into something that makes sense. And it should be fun. I look forward to it. Book on the warpath now. Not necessarily, dude. It's just like, it's not a warpath. It's just like, I don't like this stuff, man. I've never liked it. I've never enjoyed watching panels. I've been clear about that the entire time. I think that they're to the detriment of discourse on this website. Like, if I could Thanos snap out of existence panels and everybody had to talk one-on-one or two-on-one, like that would probably be much more preferable. I'll be quite honest with you. I just don't think it's like a super productive thing to do. And I'm supporting it by, you know, recording this. So it is what it is. Book, listening to you yesterday really made my day. It's lonely getting a PhD, but the slightly parasocial but genuine content you provide is really helpful. Thanks. Also, I'm tired today. I didn't get to bed until maybe 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I had to wake up at 10 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, I'm also kind of tired, and yesterday took a little bit of energy out of me. So yeah, 100% they're clusterfucks. They most certainly are, but they don't have to be. I don't think many actually like Prime panels in particular. Oh, that's not what he says. Panels are too chaotic for actual discourse. Maybe, dude. Maybe, dude. Anywho, sup, bookfucker? Not much. Wait, hold on. How come I only see YouTube chat in my feed? It like stopped giving me Twitch chat. Hold on. It's kind of backwards from the normal problems I run into. Wait, what the fuck? Are these all just YouTube chat people? Do we have no Twitch chatters right now? Like, it's all YouTube all the way down. That kind of threw me for a loop. I'm not used to that. The YouTube is almost a double the audience size concurrently that my Twitch is. So I may just be a YouTube streamer. Oh, none of your emotes are showing up either. Oh, okay. Hold on. I have to fix this problem because I definitely want to see both of you guys here. Let me see if I accidentally changed the setting or something, because I'm not sure why I'm just seeing YouTube. Appearance, reply, bot, Discord filtering, about filtering maybe. Hi chat bot, hi command starting with exclamation point, chatter name, word to filter. No, that's not it. Yeah, I don't know why that is. I'm only seeing Twitch is lagging. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. Fine, I'll move to YouTube then. Wait, Mr. Hen, were you not already in YouTube? Yeah, hold on. I have to figure this out because I definitely need to be able to see both chats. I don't know why this is fucked up. Oh, God damn it. They're spouting missing. Oh, there we go. Ugh. Annie, the lone Twitch Ranger here. Oh, look, there's Revenant, everybody. Okay. Angel Thumb. All right. Yeah, you guys are back. I saved us. You most certainly did, you know. I know it's showing up on stream. I see that. I just it's not on the restream. Now it is. So a big nothing burger. I saw myself. There you go. That's a rare first for you, huh? You see what I did there? Anyway, I'm not that clever. Fuck. I'm prolonging the inevitable here. Let me go ahead and bring up my notes. Puns feels weird, man. Whatever, dude.
That book fucker.
That's something I get joy out of. There are not a lot of those things nowadays. Let's see. Control plus, maybe? Is that how I zoom in? Yeah. Okay, cool. Alrighty. Feels bad, man. Yeah, unfortunately. You don't have to get so sad. I'm not really sad. I'm honestly, I'm just tired today. So don't think I'm sad or anything. If anything, I'm happy that yesterday the stream went so well, financially and stuff. And from feedback. I got a lot of really nice comments, really nice Discord messages. People on the Patreon were DMing me. Thank you, people on the Patreon. We also had a lot of growth in the Patreon yesterday. A lot of people signed up for the postcards. Now, if you guys didn't know, here's my shill. On the Patreon, we have a new setup. I've adjusted all of the tiers and their rewards and the benefits and stuff. I've also...
Half a year of lurking.
Thanks. Wow, a year? That's a lot of fucking time, dude. Well, I'm happy to have you around. I'm happy for that. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, Patreon. So there's a new tier on the Patreon that I just added. It's like an Euler tier, so don't feel like you need to, jump into that. But it's a $40 tier where you can get a postcard from me every single month, and it's called Pen Pals. You can request what kind of postcards you want, what kind of stuff you want written on it. All of that is on the Patreon. And access to that form is available to everybody on the Patreon. The reason for that being, anybody that is a patron on Patreon that fills out that form will be entered into a raffle to get free postcards at the end of every month. I've set aside in a secret number of postcards that will be sent out for free. And get this, some of the people that are choosing to pay for that postcard tier are donating their postcard that they're paying for to other people. So that's crazy. We've had at least two or three of those happen already. So those people have donated their postcards to the community and kind of just want to support the show, which is super nice of them. So in any event, when I go downtown and I go drinking, I'm going to pick up a bunch of postcards. That'll probably be on Saturday or Sunday. I'll also be filming that to kind of get some content for the travel video that I'll do on Tijuana. And yeah. So expect to see that. And if you're a patron and you had no idea that that was a thing, go to the Patreon page, scroll down till you hit the Pen Pals form, and go ahead and fill that out with your information, and then you can be entered into the raffle to win that at the end of the month. For those people, it'll be a mystery. You'll just get it in the mail, and then you'll be like, oh my God. If you want to tweet a picture of that or Instagram it or something like that, whatever the kids are doing nowadays, TikTok it, I have no idea. Go ahead and do that and tag me if I'm on the platform, and that'd be kind of cool. And if you do that, it would be kind of cool to see. Like, hey, look
at this good-looking hunk of a man. Hope you are doing well. 3.
Thank you. You know, take a picture of it, maybe buy something that's notable where you live. So if you're in Paris, maybe you take a picture of it with like the Eiffel Tower in the background or something. I don't know. If you live in like the BFE of Alabama, maybe take a picture next to like a water tower in your city. I don't fucking know. It'd be kind of cool to just, you know, see where those are going and make sure they're getting to people. So if you do receive one of those postcards, I'd be happy to learn that it made its way to you. So yeah, you need to tease your writing. No, my writing's not, you know, as good as it used to be. Booksmart's finally appreciating his mods. Yeah, my mods are great. I don't know what you mean. Hey, I love catching this live. Yeah, well, I love that you love that because I'm happy to have even more people watch it. Just because Vaush isn't perfect doesn't mean he's not watchable. True. I'm assuming you're arguing with somebody else, but yeah, true. Booksmarts, you should cover more productive talks and discuss how to engage in ideas better. We're doing that today. So the other half of the title today is my favorite YouTubers or something like that, because the idea for today, oh shit, hold on. My editor is literally going to kick my ass if I do not change this real quick. My editor made some thumbnails that I'm supposed to have for the live stream today so that it's more clickable, and I totally didn't set that up. My fucking bad. Damn it. That's my bad. I'm sorry. Tacite. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. I should probably ask him how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. I didn't add the thing. Let me go ahead and download that real quick. Let's see here. Where is that? I got a lot of DMs yesterday. Let's see. Wait, why isn't it in here? Fuck, I'm having a rough time. Hold on, give me a moment here. Okay, there it is. Download. Yeah, so we're going to be looking at some YouTubers that I like, and we're actually going to be looking at an argument between them and kind of pointing out how conversations where you two are combative or you have different ideas do not need to turn even into an argument. They do not need to turn into some back and forth that's like super heated where you're making fun of other people and stuff. Like, it can be completely cordial, and that may sound weird to you, and it's going to look weird. There's going to be a big gap between seeing the parts of the panel that we're going to see today and then contrasting those to the way that these two people argue with each other. What the fuck? What is this? Thanks.
Love your content, dude.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. Yeah, because I agree. I need to cover stuff that is closer to like what I want you guys to do in real life. And these are two people who I think demonstrate like what I'm talking about. When I'm saying that you need to be building rapport, when I'm saying you need to not be stepping in landmines with upsetting the other person, when I say that you shouldn't insult them, when I'm saying that you should like incorporate what they're saying into what you're saying.
WTF is this? I've never subbed to someone for more than a month. I hope this isn't weird.
No, hey, you know, that's a social norm that I'm willing to get behind. You know, the Democrats should put that on their platform. Completely. I love it, dude. We should make that a regular thing. Vaush, it's a type of person who used his diction to mask an insecurity. Not sure what the insecurity is. I don't know, dude. It's a good ass question. Looking forward to the Japanese argument. Japanese argument? What's the Japanese argument? I'm probably not going to cover what you guys want me to cover here. You should start playing D&D like Destiny. I would have 10 viewers. I care too much about the financial viability of my time. Thank you, Snipe the Libro. I hope you're not doing any sniping today. Vaush versus Destiny debates got kind of boring the moment I outpaced both of them intellectually. That's how it is, you know. Kyotsuke. Oh God, if only Destiny took your criticisms. I'd simp so hard for him if he wasn't such a dickbag about everything. A $2 super chat from Givi, thank you. Honto desu ka? Honto desu. Maji. For the Gen Zers out there, dude. Hey, Bookie, nice crib. Thanks, brother. I hope you get big enough that you can't do TTS for subs anymore. What an asshole. I love the comment, but it is quite underhanded and dickish. I hope you get big enough that you can't do TTS or subs anymore. Orphaned after the DNV divorce, hoping Bookie will adopt me. Yeah. Let's hope I'm better than most people in the foster system. Otherwise, you guys are in for a world of hurt. Anywho, let's go ahead and... what is this? Oh, another one. Billboard Eric. Thanks, brother. Okay. Let me see how I want to do this here. Do you guys want to see my notes? I don't think you really need them this time around. I think I can just read off of them, and you can keep my beautiful face on the screen for the entire time. What do you guys want to do? I'm eating soup. Well, I wish I was eating soup. YouTube chat is better. That's so. They're getting better. Twitch, you got to step it up. You guys are being outpaced both intellectually and audientially by the YouTube chat. It's unbelievable. They're outnumbering you 2-1. They're gonna wreck you guys. You guys gotta fucking keep that in mind. I do think Destiny does take some of your criticisms and translate it into action. For example, he stopped doing permabans, mostly timeouts now. Wonderful. If only he would tell me that. That would make me feel a lot better. Here's a tip for you guys. If you do something like that, like you take into consideration like what somebody else tells you or what a friend mentioned to you or something like that, it is really nice that you took that to heart. It really is. However, the advice that I would give to IRL people who aren't streamers is that you should probably tell your friends that. It doesn't hurt to do it. And it takes an extra 2.5 seconds. And it can mean the world's difference, right? Because everything is up in the air in a guessing game until people are explicitly told that. And some people need to be, you know? I'm not saying that's the case for me. I do see that he's making changes, and I do appreciate that fact, you know, as I try to mention, you know, every time I cover him, that I do see the 2021 year, and I do recognize that he's making changes, you know, and I am... you know, I'm no stranger to the fact that has something to do with me and my criticisms, you know. Yeah, like setting that aside, if something like that happens in your life, definitely tell the person. And I'm saying this not just for the Destiny thing, but because this is something that I did just yesterday, like making clear to my friends, like, thanks, you know, for supporting me. Thanks for answering my questions. Thanks for being there for me when I'm being a derp. You know, thanks for the support. And I made clear to some other people that were not mentioned in the stream, that were not, you know, streamer people, that, hey, I just wanted to say, you know, I didn't want to mention your name on stream because I know it's not public that we talk and whatever, but you have also been one of the people that I've really appreciated getting advice from and yada yada, because I think like it can make a world of difference to receive that from people. Just my 2 cents, you know, maybe something to consider in your own life. So if somebody did something nice for you recently, they drove you home when your car broke down, they covered your shift at work, whatever it is, you know, an explicit thank you and a note about that can really brighten somebody's day, you know. Maybe they had an equally shitty day, you know. Maybe it ended up being that because they took your shift at work, they missed a date, and then that date just ghosted them and whatever. You know, it could be a variety of things happening in their life, and it's tough to measure what the impact of you saying thank you could be. So just food for thought, like a little bit of a life smarts moment. Just consider that. Destiny is among us. I hope he's not among us right now, because he's not going to be happy with what I have to say about this conversation. I know he doesn't watch the reviews, so who cares? It's interesting coming from both communities that the level of tribalism is over the top with Vaush and Destiny. I almost want to criticize the community more than the creator. Well, I mean, it's tough. Like, I don't want to blame you guys for shit because you're an amorphous group of individuals acting under groupthink powered by parasocial relationships, and that's a very powerful combination of things to be happening at once. So I generally try to avoid levying criticisms at the audience unless I can single one person out from that group. Like an orca whale going after a school of fish, I need to make sure that I have just one of you on the ropes that I can focus on, because the reality of diving through that group and getting one of you is just one that's not going to come into being, you know? So I just don't think there's a lot of useful stuff to be gained out of, I don't know, criticizing you guys more broadly. Giving you advice is different, right? Because giving you advice is like giving you a solution without making clear what the problem is. And it gives you guys space on your own to determine what that problem is, right? Or to come to the conclusion that there is no problem and simply a means of like improving. So if I tell you something like you should try saying thank you to people that do nice things for you or that impact the way that you make decisions, you could fill in the blanks with like why you should do that in your head. Like, oh, I should do that for Nick because Nick did blah, blah, blah for me. Or, yeah, Heather was really cool the other day and she did blah, blah, blah. I do kind of feel like a dick for not saying something, yada, yada. You know, I'll leave that up to you, however you want to think about yourself in the picture. But I'll give you a solution without a problem and you can go ahead and find the problem to hook it up to, you know? I think that's probably a better way of doing it. It is always the little things that can mean a lot. That's for sure, yeah. And there's thoughtfulness in small things too, right? Like I'm able to fill in the blanks for how much you were thinking about me by getting that small thing. Something that Destiny told me when we were in Georgia together is that just remembering one or two things about people, like where they lived or something like that, can mean a world of difference when you go and talk to those people and meet them for a second or third time, because it makes clear that you remembered something about them or the conversation, and then they can this is me talking now. They get to fill in the gaps of like how much they think you remembered or how much they think you were paying attention or how much they think you care. And oftentimes if they're taken aback by the fact that you remembered anything and you already exceeded what little expectations they had of you, they can fill in the blank with fucking the stars being the limit, right? In terms of like how much attention you paid to them and whatever. So, you know, yeah, little things count. And I think it's in no small part because it's difficult for people to gauge how much thought went into something that's just cute, small, and thoughtful. I hope the stream's not busted because my chat's busted again. Oh, okay, it logged me out. Very cool. Very cool. I don't know what's going on with my stream stuff today. It's kind of all buggy. I'm just waiting for that to get fixed so that we can start talking about the panel more specifically, because I literally need to talk to you guys while we do this. This is going to be an audience collaboration sort of stream. And of course, the one day that I decide that I really want it to be an audience collaboration sort of stream, Restream logs me out and then forces me. I know you guys are hitting test. It's not a testing thing. It literally logged me out and it's not letting me log back in. That's all that's happening. Wow, this is great. This is really great. Lol, chat, I'm high. Okay. Can I know who just said that so that I know that I don't take your opinion super seriously given you're baked? Or you said hi. I guess it doesn't mean weed baked. Look, now I have my chat up and it's not giving me any of your guys' messages. Wow. Hey, look at that. Not a single message. That's crazy. You know how you can tell I'm tired? I'm not getting like pissed at the fact that like my hardware is not working. I'm not getting pissed at the fact I'm having technical problems, I should say. Because I guess it's not hardware. I'm still waiting for that to give me my messages. Hello, Restream, please. Okay, that's not gonna work. I don't know what to do, honestly. How can I fix this? I'm gonna close this tab. Maybe it's the tab that's the problem. Who knows? Save images. This. Oh man, how's everybody doing today? I guess I should ask that. How's everybody doing? Anybody do anything cool today or have any cool plans for the week? Let me know. Going anywhere special, meeting somebody special, having a fun time? I would be interested to hear about it. And I'll try to read it on my OBS. I need to study. I biked vacation. I'm failing stats. Well, that's not good. I am doing. Okay. I finished all my AP exams. Pog. That must be a giant relief. I remember having all mine done. Fuck, man. What a fucking stressful thing. You take the whole fucking class, you could pass the whole class, and yet you could fail at the very end by just failing that test. It's like, it's quite worrisome. Okay, I don't know what to do. It's like giving me error messages, and it's not giving me any of my chat. I don't know what's up with Restream today. Okay. Now I'm gonna get pissed. I'm gonna start getting upset because today was supposed to be the day that I used the chat for stuff. Oh man, come on, dude. That's not cool. Please just work. Whatever. We'll toss that to the side. I'll talk first. I'll save the viewer stuff for later. Just know that I can't see anything that you guys are saying. So mods, please be on the lookout. I guess in the meantime, I'll keep that tab open, but I don't think it's gonna work. Don't think it's gonna work, guys. I'm having a bad feeling about this one. So let me get my notes in front of me real quick. All right, let's start out with this. Thank you for the sub. I appreciate it.
Hopefully going on a date soon. What's a good icebreaker?
Ooh,
Keep up with the good work, buddy. Love ya.
a good icebreaker. I think that the best icebreakers are ones that are based on the other person. Literally anything, even like not clever stuff that is kind of based around what little you know of the other person. I think those make the best icebreakers. So do I want to share these? These are kind of cringe. So there was somebody on one of the dating apps that I'm using, and they were like a marketing person at Speedo. That's the little men's underwear that you wear when you swim. I'm not going to say it, actually. You should come up with icebreakers that are based around what little you know of the other person, and even if they're dorky and stupid, they're going to land because they're about the other person, and I think that those are probably going to be the best ones. So that's my advice to you, is to pick an icebreaker that has something to do with the other person, something they're wearing, where they work, whatever you know about them. I think those are good icebreakers. Assuming you're on like a dating app and you know something about them in advance. So that would be my advice there. This Reverie panel, let's just go ahead and get into it finally. There's lots of talking over each other and not working to understand each other in this panel. There's a lot of people that just cause problems. There's a lot of people that are in here to kind of just, take away from the potential of what the conversation could be. Lots of people talking over each other. They're not working to understand each other. They're working to tear each other down, which is what you do in debate, I guess. I wrote down that I think the potential of this conversation was unrealized, as per the usual with panels. You may hear me make arguments and claims around this idea, so I'll sound like a broken record. Let me explain. I think that there is conversational potential, and for those that missed the very beginning of the VOD, I'll repeat it. I think that when you look at like having Destiny in here, who has argued a long time and knows a bit about politics, and you mix in Vaush, who's relatively intelligent, knows a lot about socialist stuff, and then you mix in Pisco, who knows a lot about the law and is fairly well spoken. Like, you take all these people that are unique and they have these cool attributes about them. You have Viv. Like, for the love of God, the topic that we're going through is regarding the Republican Party in the United States and whether or not we can like think of them as being fascist. Who on earth in this panel knows about fascist stuff? Viv. Who gets to talk? Like, very, very little in the entirety of this panel topic. Viv. Why is that? Why is it that even Prime shuts Viv down at a few points? Like, maybe we should probably hear from Viv if we want to hear about the definition of fascism. Maybe it's better than, instead of asking every individual person on the panel to give their definition, then criticize it for being stupid when we've recognized that that's a problem in the community. Maybe instead we should look to Vivian, ask her what a good working definition we could use is, ask if anybody else disagrees with it, and build from there, rather than building from each individual person who has a very stupid idea of what the word means to them, right? Rather than listening to the lady who wants to talk about how she used to think that George Bush was a fascist because she thought he was kidnapping people, maybe instead of giving that person any airtime at all, we kind of listen to Viv and have her guide this conversation a bit more than she was allowed to, you know? And we don't, you know, maybe in part because it's not entertaining, maybe in part because people don't want to listen to Viv. I don't fucking know, dude. But what I do know is that there's a potential in this conversation that was just not realized, you know. There was a lot of cool stuff that could have happened, cool conversations. Oh,
Use
that was
Discord hashtag stream discussion as chat temporarily.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do that. That's a good ass idea. Okay. So if you do !Discord and you go to stream discussion, hashtag stream discussion, I will watch there for a live chat of all this stuff. If you're just joining the Discord for the first time, check out the README page. Some people don't read that shit, and you really should. Because people make recommendations that they want, for instance, live notifications. If you want live notifications, setting aside the fact that you can turn those on in Twitch or in YouTube, respectively, you could go read the README, react to the right post, and then you get a live notification every time I go live from the updates channel. We don't ping everyone because everybody on every server that they go to mutes at everyone. So we'd rather it be an opt-in thing for people that actually want live alerts. And if you don't, then you can opt out by taking away your reaction on top of the post. So, you know, stuff like that. Just keep that in mind. You can definitely go and do that. Likewise, you can recommend stuff. So if you want me to watch something, this was a recommendation that came on the Discord. I don't keep up to date on this shit. My barometer for like which Destiny and Vaush uploads are important or which Mike from CCP fucking drama is important is whatever you guys tell me, and that's usually what I go off of. So I look at the stream discussion, I look at the vote suggestions, and I go based on what the votes are looking like to, you know, gauge what I should be covering. As well, go to the README and put in your pronouns, because it's a pain in the ass to not know what your pronouns are. You know, nobody wants to upset anybody else. Okay, so for all the new people, again, I'm watching the stream discussion part of the Discord for any chatting. And if I ask questions, that's where I'll go for answers, because my restream is still not working. The chat is still not working, and we've yet to figure out why that would be. So big rip on that. Anywho, let me get back into this. So there is a potential of these conversations that is unrealized, and regardless of who you blame that on, that's just a fact of the matter. And I'm going to bring that up a bunch here, because when I'm criticizing people, when I'm criticizing Prime, when I'm criticizing the panel format, I'm criticizing it because it's unrealized potential that doesn't take a ton more effort to realize. So that's what it is. The rampant claims of fallacies and bad faith, while not without merit, are kind of frustrating and cringe to watch. Do not do this IRL. Do not make claims about when people are doing fallacies in real life. It's not going to work. In case you didn't know that, this is my time to tell you, do not do that in real life, because it's cringe and awkward and not going to work out the way that you think it will. People do that all throughout this conversation. Wow, look at this pivot. Oh my God, you're fucking ad-homing me. Like, can we please shut the fuck up? This is like listening to weeaboo people use like Japanglish. Like, this is like listening like, Gomenasari senpai. Like, what the fuck, dude? I'm fucking cringing. Stop. Don't do that. This is like probably not the place for it. It's disgusting. I don't know. It makes me cringe real bad. I definitely don't like it. Do you guys like it? This will be the first question to the audience. Does it bug you much when everybody is using like these fallacy terms, or when they're claiming pivots and ad homs and all these other things from other people on the panel, gish gallops, shit like that? Embrace the cringe. It's life. Well, not my life. I try not to be cringe, but yeah. And what's funny is Nicole could absolutely roast me right now because in another server where we were gonna have game night, the night that I decided I was gonna do the stream, I bailed out of it and I said Gomenasari, kind of like ironically. But yeah, it does bug me to hear that in real life because it's incredibly cringe. It feels cringe in big panels. In a one-on-one, I don't think it's wrong. Interesting. Let me think about that for 2 seconds. Would it be different if we were in a one-on-one? I guess it would be. Well, because it's almost like a direct confrontation. It's not a throwaway line. Yeah, huh. Okay, yeah, I could see how it's less cringe and it's one-on-one. I could agree with you there. From 5 minutes, they directly talk. Oh, okay, you're talking to somebody else. There's utility in exposing a tactic, but it's gotten to the point, especially with Vaush, where it just comes off extremely cringe and debate bro-ish. What's funny is I don't mean for this to be directed at Vaush. Oh, you guys are going to hate me. I don't like that Steven and his side of things did that throughout the whole conversation. It may be because tonally I find Vaush to be cringe like no matter what, but again, you have mean smarts today. I'm just gonna shoot you guys straight. I think tonally Vaush is incredibly cringe. I think it makes it difficult to parse through what he's talking about, and it's very difficult to put out of my mind a tone of condescension when it is so thick in everything that he says. But for that reason, I kind of have a blind spot for him pointing that shit out because it's part of his character, I guess, of, you know, being something I generally just don't find palatable.
Smarts is best smarts.
I don't agree, but thank you. I'm sure it's entertaining for you guys, but it's not fun for me. Like I talked about on Eris, it probably creates like contempt between me and other creators. You know, it be what it be. You know, I'm just gonna have to be real and like sail my own boat and whatever at this point. You know, I don't want to pull punches from people. It's just whatever. I mean, I'm still pulling a ton, so it's like, I don't know. Anywho, I had more of a problem with this on Steven's side of things. I think a lot of the Destiny and the Destiny adjacent group making these call-outs, it just kind of felt silly. Like, especially at the very beginning when he's saying that Vaush is gish galloping, when Vaush is literally responding point by point to what Steven had laid out. Like, it's when you don't just say the thing, but it's like not landing because you're not describing anything accurately. Like if you're saying that Vaush is gish galloping for responding point by point to what you laid out, that's not, he's not gish galloping. Like that's not even what that is. Now some are more okay. Like when Destiny claims that Vaush is pivoting, when he talks about, when you said leftist, I mean global leftist. So pardon me for being like, more specific or whatever. Like, yeah, that is kind of a pivot. The entire point of the topic is specifically about the American Republican Party. So when we're talking about leftists, I think it's fair to assume that that's within the context of American politics. And even if Steven had meant for it to be outside of the context of American politics, then he's the one committing a faux pas because it's not what we're talking about. We're meant to talk about American politics. So I think the play there, if you honestly thought that Steven was mixing these things up, is to point that out rather than continue on with the global perspective when that's not at all what the topic is meant to be. But, I don't think that these are mistakes that would have been like focused on nearly as much if it weren't for the exasperated cries of Destiny's team. So like when Vaush is like, I'm sorry, I'm being specific and whatever, and everybody's like, Jesus fucking Christ, this guy. Like, I wonder if without the like Jesus fucking Christ, this guy and stuff like that, if it really would have played out as bad. But That's the rhetoric level of things. By pointing these things out, by making those clear, Destiny is starting to develop a rhetorical style where bringing attention to the meta level of the conversation, the decisions that the debater is making, can help to get the audience over to his team and see from his perspective the problems that he's having with some of these arguments, or the problem he's having with the approach and with the thought process of some of these other creators. So in that way, I think it really works. And I think it really works for him specifically because when I first started talking to Steven, I introduced the idea that the reason that Hassan is coming off way better to people is because Hassan is way more understanding of where the audience is at with things. He has a way better conceptualization of what a normal person is like and how to appeal to that person. And throughout the conversation, the things that upset you, the things that trigger you, the things that get you to respond, that get a rise out of you, that see you responding to other people negatively and harassing them, these triggers are not necessarily clear to everybody. Not everybody knows what the fuck got you so upset. Nobody understands like why it is that this dude is screaming and acting like an asshole. People don't always catch the things that trigger Steven. And sometimes that's like completely reasonable because Steven is not only triggered at the thing that was said, he's triggered because he thought about it 5 steps ahead and thought that there's no way you could believe this because when you think about it in this scenario, that's not possible to hold as a belief, right? So he's going extra steps, thinking about it in his head, getting upset about the thought that he had in his head, and then responding in kind. But like from the outside perspective, we just saw somebody say something benign, a random take that while we may not agree with, we don't think is absolutely boneheaded. But he's giving this is absolutely boneheaded response, and it feels like it's unwarranted, right? And I said that for a lot of the conversations that he had with Hassan when he was upset with Hassan, this was the case, and it was very clear. And you mix this with the fact, and I'm going to say fact, that he has problems with Hassan and that's coming off in his tone at many, many, many points in the conversation. And it's very easy and clear to the audience that Destiny has a problem with Hassan and that he's being a little off his rocker, right? That could have easily been the same case in this conversation, and maybe some people came away thinking that. It's clear that this Destiny guy does not like Vaush. He does not like the dude personally, and that's influencing like the way that he's behaving here. But the difference between how he handled Hassan way back then in the panel that I talked about with the two of them, which was a gazillion years ago. I don't even think I have a VOD of that. That was before I even started streaming. Comparing how he handled that panel to how he handled this panel, you can start to see what rhetorical changes he actually thinking about, what rhetorical changes he making. The rhetorical change that he's making is trying to make sure that what he sees and what's upsetting him is clear to the audience, that the audience understands that when he's upset because he thinks somebody is pivoting, that he makes clear what the pivot is, that when he thinks that somebody is gish galloping, that he makes clear to the audience like what the gish gallop is or when it's happening in real time, so that people don't miss out on that, so that rather than explain those things later to his own audience, he can explain them in real time and maybe keep the audience and other panelists in this case along with him for the ride and you know, on his side for this. It worked out well for him. You guys thought that he came out the better of the two in there. There were quite a few people, including Fnatic and, you know, Pisco and other people that were clearly on Steven's side of things. Even Viv, while she didn't necessarily agree with the way that you know, Steven was treating the word fascist, she did agree that it's difficult to argue against him when sitting next to her is Vaush, who is, you know, feeding into a lot of the claims that Steven's making about the problem around that word. So, you know, I think it played out well for him. And I think that that's like a rhetorical change that is benefiting him, even if it's not the kind that I would like to see, you know? I think it's important to highlight that he is making changes. He's getting better at this. You can see that by comparing and contrasting old conversations to this one. I do see that. It's not the exact direction that I would want to go, but I'm not that picky. I'm just happy he's doing the rhetoric thing, you know? There is a person in your chat on screen with an extremely 2S name. Well, can a moderator remove that? I don't know. Isn't that the job of moderators? Not to be mean to the mods. I mean, if they're in YouTube chat, I guess I could go on YouTube and delete them. But yeah, I think that's a moderator thing. Let me change the thumbnail real quick on the YouTube. 1 second. And if any moderators need me to give them privileges in the YouTube chat, you just let me know and I'd be happy to do it. But yeah, you just let me know because it's easy for me to do that. That passive tone works really well for Destiny, especially in that situation. I don't know if Destiny was passively aggressive in this
bookfucker
either. I think that Destiny was pretty aggressive in this, but difference of opinions, I guess. Makes Vaush look like an aggressive ass. I mean, Vaush was. The problem is, do I want to talk about this? No, I'm not going to. I don't want to get in a giant feud with the Vaush guy. I don't want the Vaush people in his audience to, get a hate boner for me because I dislike some things that are like seemingly intrinsic to the dude and his appeal to people. So I'm going to be real with you guys. I'm going to be probably tiptoeing around the Vaush thing because there are problems he has with his tone, with condescension, with an uppityness, with thinking he knows more than other people in the conversation that are completely mismatched with like his responses to questions, his ability to hold focus in a conversation, and these other things. Like it's very difficult. And to explain this mismatch and to go through it and to give advice would require going line by line. I'm not fucking doing it for the dude. Honestly, I don't want to do it for like a lot of these debate people. If somebody wants to pay for that service and they want to reach out in private and they want to commission that, that's fine. But to be quite honest, like it takes a bunch of fucking time. It's not necessarily any more entertaining than just going through this and talking with you guys. So it doesn't make me any more money. There's like no dimension to which it makes sense to like do that. But if somebody wants to pay for it, they can. But the dude's got a lot of problems and a mismatch between his tone and posturing and what he's actually saying or what he's actually able to do in a conversation. And I think that mismatch is like part of what the problem is here. But I won't get like too deep into it. Sorry, I'm watching it on like 3.5x. Anywho, let me keep going down this list here. So yeah, don't claim the fallacies, the bad face shit IRL. Don't do that. That's my advice to you. Don't do that. Even remarking upon actual examples of this just does not work to advance the conversation. Although it may leave an impression on the viewers, which is what we talked about with Steven getting a benefit out of that, right? The central problem seems to be a difference of opinion on the possible conspiracy theory that Jeb and his brother, Jeb Bush and George Bush Jr., worked to steal the election in Florida. Beyond that, there's also commentary around where you draw the lines of fascism and when you label certain people/policies fascist. So those are the topics. My understanding is that the larger community has deemed this as a loss for Vaush optically. I'm going to ask again in the Discord again. Go to my stream discussion in Discord, !Discord. What do we think, people? Can I get let's see. I want Pepe laughs in the chat if that's incorrect, and I want let's see. Put that angry drawing emote or one of my emotes if it is correct. Let me know. So Pepe laugh if you don't think that's correct, if you think Vaush actually did well optically, and then any of my emotes, whether it's the angry drawing dude or the miso face or whatever, if you think that that's the truth. Okay, there's one of them. Okay. Okay. I'm not seeing any Pepe laughs, so that's rough. Okay. I just wanted to double check that. So, yeah, he didn't do super well. Okay. That's a thing. I'm like so low energy today, dude. I feel so bad for you guys. I'm so low energy. I hope it's not taking away from the experience. But yeah, so the larger community has deemed this as a loss for Vaush optically or otherwise. I'm not interested in doing a line by line for him to see what's going on there. See yesterday's VOD for more info on that. But I will say that this whole panel looked bad for the participants. At a bigger conversational level, I think that there is a solid group of people uninterested in the meta level conversation around labels. The funny thing is, Prime sets that up with the topic. So what do I mean by this? Steven makes the argument, and maybe I even have it in my notes. Let me check real quick, that we shouldn't, basically we shouldn't use these words. Here, let me see. Let me just read my notes. Notes Andy here. Regarding fascism, Destiny thinks that we should avoid using the term in common parlance or debates because it has lost its meaning. To understand what someone means when they call something fascist requires several follow-up questions to deduce what they actually mean by it, similar to the term racist. What I don't like about this is it only serves to shut down conversation. What you're doing is you're adding a period to the end of this like conversational sentence and nobody's allowed to talk after that. It's like we either completely argue with you from your crazy like super hardcore position that this should never be used, you know, and that's our only option. Or we agree with you. It's really tough, and I don't know how to visualize this. I was thinking about how to explain this to you guys because to me it feels very clear that when you make arguments like this, you're stifling the whole conversation, because if the topic is about the Republicans and whether or not they're fascist, to say that nobody should use the term fascist kind of just shuts down the entire conversation, and it kind of forces us to like, yikes, well, this dude doesn't even want to talk about what we're supposed to talk about because he's essentially banned the use of the term that's in the fucking title of the topic. So what are we going to do here? Well, given that this guy is super duper popular, Prime has, let's be nice to Prime here. How should I word this? It's important to Prime that Destiny has talk time. Destiny is an important person. Destiny is popular. Destiny is a large part of like the success of various political people on Twitch. So there is always going to be a desire to make sure that Destiny is heard in a conversation. And Destiny himself, you know, works to make sure that the spotlight is on him, that he has the microphone for as long as possible, that he's able to get his points in without interruption or whatever, you know? So a combination of these two things kind of makes that difficult, you know? So that's going to be my small note on that, because I really don't want to dig into Prime or anybody, but yeah. If someone feels the term is important, like Vivian, that'll trigger the fuck out of them. Reasonably so, right? Or anybody that was interested in discussing the topic will probably be triggered because you're removing the word from even being able to be used. If someone believes they are being falsely labeled as someone improperly using it, they'll also be triggered. So when he's saying things like, nobody understands how to use this word, everybody should shut the fuck up. If you're somebody sitting there like,
hey, but I have a good idea of what fascism is. I've actually, I've been through the process you talked about, and I actually learned a bunch about it. I don't mean to call myself a resident fascist expert, but I have read a few things on the matter, and I gotta say, I find it useful as a phrase. I gotta say, I feel like I have a fair understanding of it, and frankly, looking at the political situation, I think that it's a fair descriptor for some of the policies out here. You know, and that's worded much better than the way it was worded on this panel, because you have some less than intelligent takes on this, or less than intelligent contributions. Let me get that out of the way just real quick, because I really don't want to bully this person. I don't even know what their name is. The person who constantly makes the point that they used to think that George Bush was fascist. Does anybody know who that person on the panel was? I'll go to the Discord for this. Again, if you want to participate in, you know, this and answer my questions and whatever, you're going to have to go to the Discord, because my chat isn't working for some reason today. Like, yeah, so I'll pass that question off to you guys. No clue, mate. They were called Neo or something. Neo, okay. I'll write that down. Okay, so this Neo person, Anomegalol, okay. Let me open my notes back up again. So yeah, we'll call him Neo. So this Neo person I wrote, and I'm just going to read exactly what I wrote. This is going to be really mean. This is from 3 o'clock in the morning Booksmarts, so enjoy this. I know it's going to be bad too, because I see a note that I left myself that this is going to be kind of mean. Whatever, I'll just read it. This person is about 80 levels below the understanding and communicative ability of most of the other vocal participants. Okay, this is mean.
They jump in with kind of silly anecdotes and one-liners that aren't helpful. It's clear okay, now I'm remembering. This is the mean part. It's clear that this person's journey out of ignorance that they are documenting in their contributions is an ongoing one. And my recommendation would be to trek further before intervening with stories of success. If you're interested in how Booksmarts writes, that's how I write. I think it's overly wordy, but man, it's fun to write like that, dude. I'll read that one more time just because I'm yanking my own shtick here. But I love the way that's written. I was really happy with that, even if it's super duper mean. It's clear that this person's journey out of ignorance that they are documenting in their contributions is an ongoing one. And my recommendation would be to trek further before intervening with stories of success. So, they're not, they're on a journey and they haven't quite gotten there yet. So stop telling me about how you've arrived, That's what I would say for the neo person. What's unfortunate for the neo persons, I have literally nothing else to say because that was their contribution nearly every time they were able to get a word in the conversation. So if I had to give advice to the neo person, don't do panels. That would be my advice. That's my advice to a lot of people. That's not even like a mean thing. Probably don't do panels. Panels suck. They're not fun. And I don't think you're going to have fun on them. So probably don't do that anymore. Let's go to Vaush's. Hold on. Have I finished my main points? Let's see. Oh yeah, so let's finish this idea. So at a bigger conversation level, I think there's a solid group of people uninterested in the meta level conversation around labels. The funny thing is, Prime sets that up with the topic. Like, they're all mad about arguing about the meta level BS regarding labels, right? They're all mad that all these conversations turn into a meta level discussion of the definitions and semantics, and we just end up talking about the word and not not moving forward with connecting that to policies or politicians or blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's how it's set up. That's the topic. You agreed to that. That's what you agreed to. Why don't you start throwing stones at Prime? He set up the panel. He's the one that picked that dumb fuck topic and worded it the way that he did. Like, I rarely give criticism to the moderator people. I try to be very, very, easy on them. But if you guys really had a problem with having these discussions turn into meta level BS regarding labels and terms, you have to blame Prime for that. You have to blame Dylan for that. You have to blame the moderators and the people that are picking the topics. You have to blame the producers for that. That's a lot of it starts with them because they set up the conversation to be like that. And before you throw that stone, before you're like, oh, he said to be mad at Prime. I hate Prime. Well, hold on. Because the reason that Prime is doing that is because it's what you motherfuckers want to watch. It's what you choose to watch. It's because you don't give him that feedback. You don't boycott his shit. You keep showing up. And that's what he's going to keep doing because that's what makes people come. So it makes people come. Certainly didn't make me come, dude. Made me, softer than a sea slug. But yeah, I just don't know, dude. You can't complain about it being meta level BS, and that's the whole topic. That's kind of the way that it's set up. And if anything, you shouldn't direct that at other people or the general conversation. You should direct that at Prime, who set it up like that. Let me go ahead and give you a quote in case you don't believe me. This is the quote of Prime introducing the topic. We've moved on to whether the Republican Party within America is a fascist, and I put cult in question marks because he kind of dips off in his mic and I don't hear what the end is. So again, we've moved on to whether the Republican Party within America is a fascist cult, and is it fascist sympathetic? So he sets that up from the very beginning. That's how the entire thing is set up. That's why Steven in his opening statement makes clear that he disagrees with even using the word. Because at least of the people complaining about this meta-level BS, he's one of the people that actually levies a criticism about focusing on that. Granted, I think he should direct that at Prime in a more direct way, but that's kind of mean, and I don't know. He's the mean guy. I don't know why he wouldn't be comfortable being mean to Prime, but yeah, I think Prime deserves some criticism for that because he's the one that sets up these topics to be so awful. I think what would be more interesting to me, beyond the opinions of these panelists and their definitions, is Prime's. What does Prime think fascism is? When Prime wrote this topic, when Prime considered that this would be worthy to hear different people discuss, I would be interested what his prediction was for like what they thought. Why did he think this would be interesting? What the fuck does he think fascism is? What's his answer to this? You know, like, because what's funny to me is at the end, in spite of Vivian making fairly good arguments that we need a common parlance version of phraseology for the normal people to use, and this occurs in every field, every discipline, Prime said,
That book fucker.
I don't know, I more or less agree with Destiny on this, and I think he's got a really solid point that, like, this is just like, you made the conversation this. Then why did you do that? Why do you have that opinion and you're choosing to do this? You know, like, what do you... Don't tell me you agree with Destiny here. Don't tell me that. Because, honey, you set up this whole panel to discuss that. Your entire job is doing that. How are you going to tell me you agree with Steven that you hate these meta-level conversations and the BS around labels and yada yada, and people don't use the terms right, nobody knows what the definitions are, and you set that up for the whole topic? And this isn't a one-time thing. This is a recurring thing, particularly on panels on Twitch. They all revolve around definitions. They all revolve around buzzwords, and they're all built in such a way where the conversation is very quickly going to come to, what do you think the definition of this word is, and why does that definition then not encompass XYZ group or XYZ policy or XYZ person, right? And if you hate that, I'm on your team. I think it's fairly dumb. And I think it's dumb because we've heard that play out a million times and people are not competent enough to have that conversation. That's a conversation for people that understand the topic more. I would be more interested to hear what Vivian thinks about different fascist organizations and the range of fascist activity or fascist policy, because Vivian is somebody who entrenches herself in the beliefs of fascist people. She learns about that a lot. She learns about the arguments. She learns about the history of different fascist people and fascist groups and different fascist things happening in the world in real time, you know, as a result of being very anti-fascist, right? But in any case, I think that she's the only one that I would be interested in listening to about this. So, you know, that's where I'm at with it. It just bothers the fuck out of me that that's like something that Prime says in here. And that's why Prime is getting brought up in this review, when generally I try not to bring him up at all. I try not to bring the mods into this because he's an active participant in here, and he's an active part of the problem that he is throwing stones at himself. So maybe a bit of self-reflection for Prime here. My advice to Prime would be to think through panel topics based on how the conversation plays out 2 or 3 steps ahead, and then to apply those principles that you made clear in this panel to that outcome. If you don't think that the meta level discussion of these terms and stuff is productive and you personally don't like it, how about you think 2 steps ahead in the topics that you're setting up and think, will this lead to that? I wonder. Or, this is going to lead to that, but how am I going to step in to intervene and stop that? How do I make sure we don't have those meta level discussions? Like, maybe that's something you should work on as one of the only people with power to change that, right? As the host, as the moderator, as the producer, whatever you want to call him, he has full creative control over what these topics are and how those conversations go, because he's the only person that is able to police them. Ultimately, it comes down to Prime that things go this way and are allowed to go this way. So to hear Prime say that really fucking triggered me, in case you couldn't tell. And I normally, again, try to really avoid giving shit to the moderators and instead focusing on the debaters here, but I just felt like that was the dumbest fucking remark that I've ever heard, given his choice of actions here. So, yeah. Molly on the YouTube says, he never knows what he's talking about and is downright disrespectful of anyone who isn't a large enough streamer to get him subs. Oh, well, that has nothing to do with this topic thing. I honestly don't care if he's disrespectful of people without subs. Maybe there's something to be said about that, you know? If this is his business and he wants to optimize it for being a business, maybe that's part of it. But there's such a thing as an ethical business. There's such a thing as a business that falls in line with your principles or your beliefs. And what's funny is beliefs and principles, like not wanting these things to turn into meta-level conversations, is something that's completely within his control to change and to fix and to guide, you know? It's crazy to me. It's like he has all the power to change this, and yet he's kind of touting on the surface that he doesn't want that. And I think of anybody being hypocritical here, we have to apply that label to Prime before we put it on Vaush, before we put it on Steven or anybody else. Like, you got to put that one on Prime. You got to slap that bad boy right on Prime. Hi, my name is hypocritical, because that's a hell of a problem, dude. I love you so much, Booksmarts. First time I've watched live, but I love your VODs. I'm happy you enjoy them. I hope the timestamps and stuff are helpful. That being said, that's kind of most of my problem with Prime that I just want to get out of the way at the very beginning, because Prime has a trickle-down effect on everything else in this panel. He decides the topic, he moderates it, everything else. A lot of things come down to Prime here. If you had a lot of problems with the way that this went or the general conversation, I think that some criticism is due here for Prime. Now, moving on to Vaush here. Vaush's roadblocks and problems. I'm just going to read my notes. Some people are accusing him of lying or gaslighting. Okay? Thank you. And that's all. I know I'm getting a ton of subs. Ooh. Thank you, dude. Kind of sounds like that song we were listening to by PictoChat at the very beginning. Woof, woof, woof. Some people are accusing him of lying or gaslighting. I talked yesterday about how time-consuming it is for me to compile notes and address that, so I'm not going to. I don't care to. It takes a bunch of my time. I've done it before. I've time-stamped every fucking VOD where I've talked about it. I've given examples. I took line-by-line notes. The Notion documents are available to those who want to support me on Patreon. Like, everything is set up to where if you really wanted that, you wanted info on that, you want to know why that's happening, how it happens, how to get around it, go watch that stuff. I'm done talking about it, honestly. And the dude is playing games with me about, listening to it, so whatever. At the very start of this topic, Vaush begins by immediately addressing Destiny, then stamping out any reply to it, which is fair enough given they were intros, but he does this the whole time. So the entire time he's making personal attacks against Destiny in particular, little digs at Destiny, and then he gets upset that Destiny interrupts him and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't know. Two wrongs certainly don't make a right, but I'm more understanding of that behavior when you've chosen to go out of your way to insult him and stuff like that. Like, that's probably justifying him interrupting you or him trying to jump in. I don't know. Now, Destiny goes over the top with jumping in at times that I think it's not warranted, right? But, it's tough to feel for Vaush here when he's doing that this entire time, when he opens, literally in his opening statement, chooses to address Destiny for 80% of it, there's an entire half of this conversation that's just between those two people, and it's kicked off by Vaush. Vaush starts that, at least from the video that Destiny uploaded, which could be that there was a ton of conversation before that in which Destiny was actually the aggravator. I don't know. And again, this is a 2.5 hour video. I do not care to go back and look at the other stuff. You guys had access to very, very cordial and very, very dedicated Booksmarts for almost 2 years. Okay? I'm done with that. I don't care enough about this to go through the trouble of looking into every little bit of minutia that I could possibly think of to defend people or find out. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go off of what I saw and give commentary on it. So what I will say is he starts it by doing that in his introduction. If we want to look at quotes, I think I have quotes of his introduction. Let's see here. But yeah, oh, okay, here it is. No, I'm not going to quote it. It doesn't fucking matter, dude. You can go watch the fucking video. At the very, because I'm going to save that for the patrons on Patreon. You patrons on Patreon are going to be the only ones to see this Notion document. They can enjoy it themselves. It would seem to me that everyone interrupts on the panel too, so I'm not sure how big of a deal it is to mention that, but whatever. Vaush may be upset that some of what Destiny was saying applied to him, right? But as an audience member that doesn't watch Vaush, I have no idea. So the reason that I put this in here is, remember how we talked about with Hassan in Destiny before? This sometimes Hassan would say shit that's like a level 10 trigger for Destiny, but for everybody else that's watching, it was like a level 2 statement. If anything, just like a little offhanded thing that shouldn't really be taken very seriously. Or if they even understood that it was a dig at all at Destiny. We kind of have the same case here. Destiny, when he is making his arguments, when he is giving his points, is not explicit throughout the entire talk of addressing Vaush directly and saying that when Vaush is saying this, that's dumb. That happens towards the end of the talk, but that's not how the beginning happens. When in the beginning, he kind of just says what his points are. I think that people are not doing this right. I think that people are not doing this right. I think that people are failing here. And if by people, Vaush feels like he's being personally attacked by that he fits into that group of the people that Destiny is putting down, then that I could get that. And that's why I put that in here. But it's not clear to the audience or me that that's the case, right? I don't know if Vaush has used fascist in the wrong way. I generally try to be good faith about many of these debate people and just assume that they all have like relatively reasonable definitions of the thing and that their coverage is reasonable. So I haven't heard that. I don't watch Vaush's content. I have no idea. It could very well be the case that those were all like low-key digs at Vaush, and that's what triggered him to be so upset at Destiny in this conversation. I'm not sure. But it's worth mentioning, even if I don't know if that's the case. Because Vaush is clearly going off in this panel, spurred by the performance, criticism, and attacks from other panelists, right? The way he processes and addresses their criticisms of both his points and character falls short of any notable performance, right? I just don't think he did a very good job of like fighting back against a lot of the shit that was thrown at him. And he was very slow in maneuvering in a way that the enemy side was not for him. So Pisco and Destiny were very quick to move on to different criticisms of him and to go to different angles of attack on what Vaush is saying or past things that Vaush has said. And the two of these people, combined with Fnatic intervening every so often to criticize Vaush, means that he has like dozens of attacks being levied against him. And his focus solely on Destiny and dismantling Destiny's point by point, being hung up on points that had happened minutes earlier, I think just does not help him very much. I don't know what to do in that situation. And frankly, I don't care to give advice to Vaush, but it's a tricky situation that I think as a viewer, you should kind of understand. He has different people all changing their different arguments against him in real time. You have Pisco, who said at least 5 different things to criticize Vaush in the short span of maybe the first 30 minutes to an hour of that topic. You have Destiny, who's going to a million different places. Like, you said fascistic policies, you said Bush is a fascist, you said this about fascism, like a lot of different points to have to address. On top of that, you have Fnatic taking any opportunistic dig that he can find at making fun of Vaush, or when he's given the mic uninterrupted, he takes that opportunity to take digs at Vaush. So the reality is that Vaush has many more arguments here than he can reasonably address or fight back against. I think that like what he needed to do was like a broad sweeping like retraction of a lot of these things, or a broad sweeping, addressing of it. But instead he says things like, this should be self-evident that these people are incorrect. It's unfathomable to him that anybody even gives any credence to the other side, irrespective of the fact that it seems like at least half of this debate panel is against you. Even Vivian, who is the most like sympathetic to your position and who is trying to jump in here and defend you with what little speaking time she has, even she isn't agreeing with you. And even she is saying that you're making her job much harder than it needs to be. So maybe that's a point of reflection to be like, okay, there's no way I can continue arguing this thing if everybody is literally going to dogpile on me and argue against it. So there needs to be some change of tack there. And rather than give you a solution to that, I think it's something you should brainstorm on your own, because I'm not getting paid. Anywho, constantly addresses Destiny directly, often including insults. I'm not going to use fallacy language, so I'm not going to say he ad homs him. I'm going to say that he makes insults. He levies insults at Steven throughout the conversation. The entirety of his intro focuses on Destiny, where he says his take is pretty self-evidently ridiculous. Like, you know, he's making digs from the very get-go, specifically against Destiny by name, you know. This triggers Destiny and Pisco to jump in at multiple points, even in the introduction. Sometimes earlier than I think is warranted or sensible, but, you know, jumping in nonetheless. If the audience came out thinking Vaush completely failed, that's one thing. But I also think it's worth noting a lot of the interruptions from Destiny, Pisco, and others were unnecessary and over the top. And that's compared to, like, the way a normal debate that's one-on-one goes, or that's compared to like other conversations with multiple people, other panels that are much less heated, that are at a lower tension level. There's just a lot that I just don't think are helpful. There's a lot of like little quips people throw out that I just don't think are necessary. It's meant to be entertaining. This is an entertaining panel. It's meant to be a show. I get that. But at a conversational level, these things are taking away from what I discussed at the beginning of the stream, which is this conversational potential, right? The potential for this conversation was huge. We could have had really cool talks, but every time that we're throwing in these little sly remarks and stuff like that, we're making it more difficult to realize that potential. I'll take a minute here to kind of check in with my chat a little bit. I'm going to go to the Discord. Again, if you do !Discord and go to my stream discussion, I can check it out there. Also take this opportunity to shill while I read this in my head. If you want to support me, Patreon's the place to do it. A lot of people seem to have discovered that last stream. There was huge growth on the Patreon, so I very much appreciate that. You can donate, you can sub, you hear the alerts going. I appreciate all of that as well. Bits, whatever, you know. Also, if you want help with like, tutoring, or you want my advice on one of your debates, you want me to take notes for you, if you have a pitch that you want to make to a company and you want me to give you feedback on it, or you have a public speaking engagement that you kind of just want a little bit of help working through a speech or something, these are all things that I've helped people with in the background. So if you need anything along those lines, !work. Those commands work in both the Twitch and the YouTube chat. So if you ever want to commission me for work, that's always available. And those people also are a huge help to, you know, keep my life buoyant and keep me in a house, you know. Let's see here. Huge growth. Yeah, it was big growth, dude. I'm a grower, not a shower. That's for damn sure. I think hold on, let me read this. I think it's in general good to not use fallacy language. Yeah, I agree, dude. I feel like Vaush has been answering the same questions for the whole of Destiny joining, but also previous 30 or so minutes. He had already answered most of those points, but couldn't even reiterate them without being interrupted again and again. And if that's your perspective, I can totally get that. I think there's a way that you can view this talk where that is what you see happening. So, you know, like, I'm surprised more people don't have a take like that, quite frankly, because I could see how that's like the other half of this is people thought that like Vaush was kind of unfairly dogpiled on the whole time, but that's not at all the response or feedback I got from the audience. But that's where I'm at with it. And rather than going out of my way to do a whole line by line on two people that really don't give a fuck about my reviews or my input, I'm just gonna make my peace with what the audience thinks about it and go with that. I know you said panels are not fun, but do you think it's worthwhile if I want to practice rhetoric or try guiding? Nope. It's not worth it. On the topic of the use of fascism, don't you think avoiding the word might make it easier to talk about what Bush did instead of what he is? Yes, you don't have that option. Let's go back to this. You're 110% correct. I love you, EDR43. You are totally, you got a 5-head take. Yes. And that's what Steven's arguing for, right? And that's what Prime agrees with, right? And you're seeing where I'm going with this. Prime set up the topic to be, and I quote, whether the Republican Party within America is a fascist cult, because I don't know if that's what he said, and if it's fascist sympathetic. You don't have the option for what you're talking about here. We cannot remove the label of fascist here and just talk about what Bush did. You cannot. And you can't even focus on Bush here because it's not really the topic. This must be a carryover from, you know, some other opinion here. It's so difficult. The fascist can't be removed from any point in this conversation. Ooh. And if we wanted to break it down into like two parts, the way we kind of were able to do at the very end of the talk, where like, okay, so fascism means X and Y in this context, like when we're talking about the Republican Party or American politics. So why can't we just say they're being X and Y instead of saying they're being fascist? Like, yeah, I'm sympathetic to that. Yeah, but that's not the way that the panel is set up. It's not the way the topic is set up. It's not the way that the debate is moderated, right? If it was moderated differently, if the topic was set up differently, if the conversation was guided differently, for sure we could do that. And I think it would be far more productive. But the aim of Prime's show is not productivity, as insofar as I can tell. The aim of Prime's show is to make as much money for Prime as possible, putting on a show that is essentially a fight between different debate people. That's it. So it's not even in his best interest to make it work like that, right? So, all right, well, Pleenet, you're out of here. Yeah, because you're talking about grooming. You called Vaush fat. That's not very nice. I'm gonna put you in a timeout. So just when you come back, don't be saying stupid shit, dude. Actually. Yeah, no, you're actually getting blocked because now you're talking about if Vaush is black, it would be different. Okay, yeah, you're gone. Sorry, buddy. Don't be cringe. And I see half of the YouTube chat arguing with this stupid fucker. Hey guys, here's the thing. If there's a stupid fucker in the chat, you know what you can do instead of arguing with them and wasting your time? You could just tell me and I'll get rid of them, you know? That would be my recommendation to you. Remember, I'm looking at the stream discussion chat from Discord in front of me, so that's where you could do that. It was an open panel about 3 or 4 hours in when Steven jumped in. That's important. The fascist label was thrown around a lot beforehand. That's the least you need to know. Okay, cool. I'm Delta format. Hello. Hi, dude. I get that. The format of the convo makes it hard. Yeah, it most certainly does. Okay, cool. So, yeah, that's the end of my talking with the viewer. Sorry, Dad. No problem, guys. No problem, guys. Who was that? Get to snitching? Yeah, exactly. Just start snitching, dude. Tell the police. Don't fucking go out there and Batman that shit. You know, it's not going to work. You guys are going to waste your time and energy, and you're going to, like, spam the chat. So it's just worth it for anybody involved, really, to argue against people that are being stupid in the chat. I should follow that advice a little bit more. But the difference is, for me, it's content, you know? Let's see here. Do I have any other notes on this here? Let's see. Oh, yeah, I'm on Vaush. So let's see. Where did I leave off? Okay, here we are. Some of his smaller, more pedantic quirks, like referring to global leftists when the topic is about American politics specifically, are kind of annoying. But I don't know if that's just like my pet peeves or if that's like something the audience picks up on. So I tried not to note a lot of those things here, but they happen throughout. There's a lot of like tonal issues, and just the way that he chooses to say shit is just really fucking condescending, rude, uppity. Like I have a lot of tonal problems with Vaush. And I have a lot of problems with how I imagine he sees other people in the world. When I like, God bless his heart and soul, but even with Lucifer, who I very much so respect, and I think he's a really intelligent dude, when I see people that are very much so convinced that the rest of the population is a bunch of idiots, and that's like guiding a lot of like the way that they're looking at the world and making decisions and thinking about things, I have to take everything they say with a grain of salt, because that's like a level of negativity that kind of just bleeds through the pages into every other part of like your narrative about the world, right? It tints everything, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think that the entire world is full of mostly stupid people, I can walk down the street of Tijuana right now looking for people looking or doing or saying stupid fucking things and prove to myself that most of people are stupid, right? I could do that. I could listen to this panel, look for evidence of that, and be convinced that, yep, even the intellectuals on Twitch just represent the stupid fucking population of humans on this planet, right? And I get the feeling that this is the way that Vaush looks at people, because the way that he talks and the way that he handles people, particularly people that disagree with him or are more intelligent than him, leads me to believe that that's kind of how he's viewing the world. And I just, that's something I do not like. So that's just a me thing. At 12:27, he says, I see that others... oh, wait, no, I did. He said that. I said that. Let's see here. Seeing others in the panel react to this, but Vaush seems to misinterpret that. Yeah, like... I'm not going to... No, because that might be ableist. He may honestly, like, not be able to read social cues, so maybe that's not a worthwhile thing to point out. I'll skip it. I'll be nice to Vaush. Moving on with another point about Vaush, because I'm just going through my points rather than watching this entire video, and then we'll go on and watch some YouTube videos that I actually like and a debate that I actually think was good, and we'll kind of change pace after that. But let's finish with Vaush here. Here is a quoted conversation, a back and forth that I kind of want to look at. Destiny says, I just want to say that anyone who considers a neocon a fascist, it's like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck do these words even mean to you guys? Holy fuck. Vaush's reply immediately after, well, we're happy to talk about it. Did you just come in here to complain about my presence on the panel? Are you that desperate for my attention? So, firstly, this statement that he's making in isolation is cringe as fuck and probably like not the best optically. I don't know why it tumbles out of his mouth. He clearly thought he had something lined up here to respond to that would maybe make it land good, but it just, I had to watch this part back, and it's one of the only ones that I did line by line for like 5 back and forths, because I was looking for what could he have possibly have seen to have thought that this would have landed with an audience of people. What could he have possibly have seen? And I can't see anything. Just before that, again, I'll repeat the back and forth. Destiny says, I just want to say that anyone who considers a neocon a fascist, it's like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck do these words even mean to you guys? Holy fuck. And Vaush's immediate response is, oh, well, we're happy to talk about it. Did you just come in here to complain about my presence on the panel? Are you that desperate for my attention? Like, that's got nothing to do with... I don't understand. It makes me cringe, dude. A lot of it just makes me cringe. This whole panel is just fucking cringe, dude. Another quoted interaction that I have is from about 44 minutes into the debate. Last one was about 20 minutes into the debate. This is 44. This is the line that you're in with now. You might as well agree with Rob or something in the next panel. Like, when he notices that he can't start winning people over by debating, he just starts like throwing people under the bus with other like crazy people. And he's like, well, I guess if you believe that, you're probably in the same boat as this fucking crazy person. Like, because you can't argue? I don't understand. Like, and I'm saying Rob is a crazy person because I think that people would be upset with being placed in the same boat as Rob. That's why I'm saying that, because it's clearly made to be an insult that you would be in the same boat as this other dude who this person presumably would not like. That's the intention of the statement. So stuff like this, like, he just starts doing these things, and it's because he's like completely floundering the entire debate. All the unnecessary, this is a response that Destiny gives to that, all the unnecessary ad hominems, because you can't understand that yada yada yada. And then Vaush responds, since you crawled in here to get my attention, you have it, congratulations. Like, all of these sorts of statements are just so fucking cringe. I know that Steven has said them in the past about different people, maybe even Vaush, and I'm sure if we went back and we listened to a panel where Steven is saying this to other people, that you just came on this panel to talk to me, and I'm sure you got your dick hard to talk to the big streamer and yada yada, I'm sure I would think that's just as cringe, right? But we're not looking at those. We're looking at this, and it's cringe here too to say things like this. Very egocentric, like, you know, in a way that I just do not think lands well at all. It would be different if it landed well. Because here's the thing. It's cringe in isolation, but it could work in context. And I would give him that credit if it worked in context. And I went out of my way because I knew I was going to comment on these being cringe to see if they fit in context. And they just don't. You know, I told myself I wasn't going to do a line by line, but at least for this I checked, and it just doesn't. There's no reason that this would have ever landed. Unless you literally have VGG brain rot, I don't see how you would have enjoyed these kinds of lines. They just don't land. Whereas if you look at Destiny using these sometimes, at least the dude's got this dickish vibe and beat about him, and he's able to like kind of pull that stuff into a conversation more naturally at times, right? But like, I don't think that Vaush pulls off that balance here. And to be fair to Vaush, Destiny doesn't do that all the time. He fucks it up all the time, right? But I just don't think he balances that here, and he completely messes that up. And so him constantly going to this point about Steven only being there for him and Steven being there to only combat him and yada yada, he's just not making those quite stick with the audience, I don't think. Then my last little quote that I have is from 141 minutes in, or hours in, I guess. How much you want to bet Destiny leaves after I leave? These comments are cringe. These comments are not strategical, Vaush. What are you doing? Like, you're not thinking at all. Normally,
Rob is the Eminem of conspiracy theories.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I'm not familiar with his discology or whatever. These statements, normally Vaush is very careful when he's making statements like these to make sure they fit in rhetorically or they do him some benefit. None of these do, dude. None of these do. Like, this is a tactical mishap with this particular quote, because all I have to do if I'm Destiny, and I did intend to leave after, would be to just not leave. All I have to do is sit my ass here for longer, and I've proven you wrong. So why would you do that? Why would you do it that way? If you really wanted to make this point, the place to make it's probably not discography. There we go. That's what it is. Discography. If you really wanted to make this point, you should have probably made it off the platform or somewhere where Destiny wouldn't see it. And you probably should have made it like after he chooses to leave, right after, and just say, oh, shocking. You guys think I'm fucking crazy that this dude is literally only in there to talk to me, and yet 5 minutes after I leave, he's gone. What do we think about that? But even then, that's like a wait and see kind of thing, right? That's not a like jump the fucking gun and just say that that's the way it's going to work out, because you're setting him up to prove you wrong just by sticking around. And Prime, as we've mentioned before, most certainly would like to keep Destiny on the show for as long as humanly possible, right? So it's not like anybody's going to be hurrying him off the stage, you know? Why do we have statements like this in here? It's so like uncharacteristically Vaush from like most of the other rhetoric I've seen of him. It's almost similar to like with perspective philosophy, when he cracked in the middle of the conversation, just turned into an entirely different person who's just incredibly rude, full of himself, and combative, right? Just some of these swings just completely missed, and they look really awkward when you play him back in slow motion, because it's like, what the fuck was he swinging at? Immediately after he leaves, the conversation is able to carry on without him, handling his arguments is dismantling, independent of Vaush's intervention. So they get to continue, they get to tear it apart. Everybody gets on the same page that he was wrong, except for the Neo person, who again we're not talking about because they were a low-level entry here that I don't think contributed at all to the conversation, really. So we're going to set them aside. But, you know, aside from them and who I think is the producer, the other, another female panelist, she, whatchamacallit, she actually had some bass takes. I actually liked her. The lady with the microphone, like the fancy microphone, the lights behind her and stuff. I liked that lady. I thought that when she's making points about how we need common parlance, and that's an important parallel to like academic or political phraseology and whatever, like, yeah, you do, right? Like, and when she made the point about quantum, like, we probably could have picked a little bit better of an example, but yeah, for sure. We could have talked about gaslighting. We could have used any number of phrases that kind of have a different practical use in common parlance than they would in a clinical setting or in an academic setting or in a, you know, in these different, more formal settings, right? So yeah, there's something to be said about like the necessity for having like these two separate kinds of terms and handling them differently, not pretending like you're expecting the common parlance usage to be the same as your academic usage, right? I don't go into like debates thinking that people are going to talk like the way I read about it in a study, right? Because it's not the way it works. Normal people talk differently. So yeah. There's all that. That's all the comments that I have on Vaush. That's Vaush's entire thing. So if you're looking for Vaush criticisms and you're a DGG4L who just wanted to like hear that part of it, we're done with that for the most part. He'll come up occasionally in discussing Prime Kai, MX Vivian Wolf, Destiny, and the other people in the panel, the other points I have left to talk about. But that's for the most part, that's Vaush out of the way here. I'm going to go ahead and check in with my YouTube chat. Again, you can go to my YouTube and go to hashtag stream discussion and at me. Adding me highlights the message, and I'll know that that's meant for me, and I'll read it. So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, anything at all, I would be happy to look at those there, and that's what I'll be doing. I'll also take this opportunity to, again, do a little bit of a shill. I've been hearing it going on in the background. All the people following, thank you. All the people subscribing, thank you. I appreciate it. The YouTube could use that. We have an editor or two working on different content for you guys. So there's always edited content coming out there. And if you want to subscribe on Patreon, you can get access to that stuff early, as well as things like my notes. So, you know, it's always an option for you. I'm a DMGGer. What the fuck is DMGGer? BGG when? We're working on it.
Thanks for all of your insights.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to see if that's somewhere in here where I can read what that was. Because I feel like I should give more attention to the people donating and the amount they're donating. Whoa! That was one to pick to check the donation amount on. Holy shit. That's a big donation. Thanks for all your insights from Science Cheese. Well, like a good cheese, you've left a really lasting taste in my mouth. That sounds kind of dirty. I appreciate the 100. That's a lot of fucking money, dude. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. I appreciate it, you know? Everybody's in their different circumstances. Everybody has different amounts that they could give or they could contribute. Some people don't have any money at all, but they have time and they can sit here and type to me and type to other people or hang out or make memes or post about me on Reddit or, you know, there's a million ways that you can like make me feel good about like participating and like supporting me. So just keep that in mind. Like, I really do appreciate shit like what the Oilers do. You know, that's what they can do. That they can donate money, right? And we've seen that the last 2 days, you know, incredible amount of donations. And I appreciate all of them. But for anybody else who's looking at that and like, fuck, man, I can't donate $100 fucking dollars. I can't donate this kind of crazy amount of money. Just know I like seeing good comments. Honestly, YouTube video, go comment, leave something nice, insightful. Tell me what you actually liked about it. Tell me what you want to see more of. Like, give me helpful information in a YouTube comment. That's huge. Be on the Discord, hang out with people, go in the voice chat, post memes, you know, make memes of me. I think they're funny. I like them. Go on the Reddit. You know, we have a Reddit. Nobody uses it, but I hope in due time we will. We have a subreddit, r/Booksmart. So we actually got the Booksmart subreddit. Clap to us. We didn't need to get a special name or anything. We just secured that shit. So yeah, you can go there and post memes or whatever. Yeah. Nightbot posted the Reddit. Anybody can do !Reddit and you can get a link to that subreddit and subscribe to it, post memes, whatever the fuck you want, you know. I read through them all and I appreciate it. Like I've said before, if you defend me on another person's Discord or if you say Booksmarts or Bookfucker, I look that stuff up on Discords like Steven's and I see when you're talking about me and I appreciate it when it's positive. So just know, like, I'm a fly on a wall in a million different parts in the internet and I see the positive things you guys say about me. I'm not so big to where I can't process all that information. I still see the comments. I still, you know, I handle all that. They all have an impact on me, you know. When my Uber cancels on me and I'm sitting out in the heat for 20 minutes waiting for somebody to pick me up and I look on my phone and I get an alert that somebody said, hey, Booksmarts, I don't normally comment, but I saw you mentioned that like you like the comments and whatever and yada yada. I found that using your techniques really helped me with like my mom. And I think we have a much better relationship now. And I owe that in no small part to like listening to your stream and doing X and Y and Z. Those all like really, really make me feel good. And you don't know what I'm going through day to day or moment to moment. So it's tough to gauge just how much benefit that brings me. We talked at the beginning of the stream about giving thanks to the people in your life who made an impact, and just that those small gestures. It's difficult for you to be able to gauge how much good happens from just taking a few seconds or a minute or two to do that. So I appreciate everybody that does. Now this is how you shill yourself. Thanks, brother. I'm happy you like it. This is my brand of shilling there. Your mom really enjoyed my improved rhetoric. I'm happy that she did, dude. My mom is a woman who certainly enjoys particular kinds of rhetoric, although if you're impressing her, I worry about the things that you're saying. My mom is she's a very funny lady, but, the kinds of rhetoric that works on her is some shit that I don't know about, dude. I don't know if that's a brag-worthy thing that you just said. You don't know my mom well enough. Rip, bookfuckers see me talking shit in DGG. I do occasionally. I mean, I don't check DGG. I'm not that fucking crazy. If I know that Steven covered something of mine, which rarely ever happens because he's a coward. He's a bloody coward who knows that he can't beat me in a debate about his debates, so he avoids it like the plague. He's just a dirty, disgusting coward who knows he's gonna lose, so he fucking puts his tail between his legs and he runs away from any criticism because I'm not a dumb fuck, and he prefers people who he can stomp on and then say that nobody has any good criticism for him. So that's the game that he plays. What tangent am I on here? What am I? Oh yeah. I don't look through the DGG Discord log thing, or not the Discord log. What is it called? Overrussell. I don't go on the Overrussell and look myself up unless I know that he covered something of mine on stream. So if you're talking shit in DGG, you are safe there because I just don't care to look through it. But in the Discord, I definitely do. Anywho, enough of that then. Let's go ahead and kind of finish this up here. Doing his best to get clipped. I love that you can tell. I love it. And if he saw that clip, I know that I would defend anything that I said in that clip. Actually, yeah, I defend anything that I said on stream. If you found something that I said that you disagree with, I would love to have you on and talk with you about it. I'm playing Destiny's game here, dude. I'm playing Destiny's game. I'm glad that you guys see that. You're learning. All right. Well, given that we're speaking so much about Destiny, I'm going to skip a few people and kind of jump to talking about his performance here. So if you want to hear about that, now is the time to hear about that. Destiny's rhetorical approach as of late, and particularly with Vaush, is to bring attention to the meta level of the discussion, pointing out that someone is meandering on an answer, that they're muddying the waters, or that they're using fallacies and pivots to get out of answering questions or handling particular topics. It's not my personal cup of tea, and I think it derails the entire conversation more than it helps it, particularly when you have other panelists and other participants that want to engage in the conversation. But it does work to bring the audience's attention to an issue at the expense of the conversation for other panelists. So if you're okay with that trade-off, go for it. He maintains rapport and connection with them through seeking consensus on these points of issue with Vaush, but again, at the expense of the broader conversational potential, right? Which I'm going to keep harping on. So what I basically mean here is, by doing this, if anybody else in the panel agrees with him at the meta level about what he's pointing out with Vaush's arguments, how he's dodging out of stuff and whatever, he can start to get people on his side. Pisco was on his side out of the gate. I think Mr. Fanatic was more or less as well. I think Gambit said some things in support of Steven too. Viv, as much as she wants to disagree with Steven's broad characterization of lefties, she struggles with it because Vaush is making her job harder. He's able to keep rapport with other people in the conversation, and so it works out well for him in this case. It needs to be mentioned that he came off as heated and combative, even more so than usual. The constant claims of fallacies and argumentative trickery kind of don't land for me, but clearly they did for the audience, right? So that's where we may have a difference of opinion, and I'm completely fine with that. It's not going to be my main point here because I don't want to argue with the audience on their conclusions on this talk. I don't care to, so I'm going to explain maybe some of what you guys were seeing. Regarding fascism, he thinks that we should avoid using the term in common parlance or debates because it has lost its meaning. To understand what someone means when they call something fascist requires... Oh, wait, did we already go through this? I think we did. No. Yeah, we did. Okay. I'm already done with Destiny. Who am I kidding? Let's go to Prime. One positive thing, because I need to combine them, right? Positives and negatives. I will give a positive thing for Prime because I haven't done it yet. At around 143 or 144, Viv is finally allowed back into the conversation to make a statement near the end. And she begins... So he gives her unabetted, time, right? He goes, okay, now the floor is given to Viv, whatever. And Viv begins her statement by saying, I was like unfairly muted in the first place, yada, yada, yada. She's roasting Prime. And he cuts her off and he says, well, we can go back to Destiny. Do you want to make a point? I started busting up laughing, dude. This motherfucker's based, dude. He's like, all right, you want to fucking take what little talking time you have to fucking throw stones at me? I'm going to fucking skip you then. If you ain't got shit to say and all of it's got to do with me, we'll fucking talk to Destiny. Believe me, I want to listen to Destiny, right? I just thought that was funny. That was like a rhetorical, like, I liked it from Prime. Let's talk about Vivian here, though, because I honestly, the one person whose performance on the panel I respect the most would probably be Vivian, which is saying something because generally speaking, Vivian is not making it into that like top tier all the time, especially with recent performances we've seen of hers. But this one she did, so it's worth pointing it out, right? I try to be fair. When people do good, I want to point out they did good. When they did bad, I want to point out they did bad, yada, yada. So let's do that. I appreciate the effort Viv put into trying to fix the Vaush versus Destiny discourse at the beginning, even if it was unsuccessful. So I did see what she was trying to do. I do appreciate that she's trying to reword like some of the arguments that are happening. She's trying to reword some of like what Vaush's positions are to be more palatable to the other people, or talking at a meta level about why this isn't working. Like, I appreciated that effort from her. She has caught the ire of some of the other panelists and kind of gets interrupted and berated throughout the conversation, despite having so little talk time, which was sad to see. I think Fnatic in particular was one of the people who like clearly wants to make a bunch of digs against Vivian, and some of them just like fall flat and are weird. Like when she's talking about, I don't like people that do X and Y and Z, and he's like, Vivian, why are you like describing yourself or some bullshit like that? And nobody says anything in response to it. It falls deadpan. It was one of the few opportunities that she had to speak where you were not meant to interrupt her, and you chose to like let off a dumb fuck like little insult like that. And I think it hurts more because she hasn't had the opportunity to talk throughout this conversation. And all you do is you keep having these like little snide remarks that you're fucking interjecting into the conversation. So that one not landing, and the fact that it's coming on somebody that I think is trying really hard to like have a good conversation here. This is a topic that by all means, Vivian should have been the person to have more talk time than anyone else in the conversation. Like it didn't land for me, and that was sad to see. But yeah, she gets that throughout the whole conversation. If anyone on this panel should have been given extraordinary amounts of talk time to contribute on this topic, it should have been Vivian. Instead, she has to basically sit out the fascist conversation, which kind of blows my mind. I get that Prime is running a show where he wants the most popular people to retain the focus and to make money, but it's, again, conversational potential. We lose so much by not having Vivian in this conversation. Like, I'll be quite honest with you. Like, I don't know if Vaush was the person we wanted talking that whole time, because he sounded like a doofus. I think it would have been much better to have Vivian defend the perspective that Vaush was attempting to in this conversation. I would have much preferred to have had that happen than to have had it work out the way that it has. And this comes back to a criticism of Prime, unfortunately. And while I understand that he's trying to run an entertaining show and he wants to give as much attention as possible to these people that are big and that bring the numbers and bring the audience and the subs and whatever else, you can balance that, dude. Like, maybe Vivian should come in and intervene more than Gambit or more than Fnatic or more than the dumb fuck George Bush person. You know, like, I wish we would have seen more from Vivian. However, Vivian has a little bit of a problem where I don't know if Vivian quite whatchamacallit. I don't know if she respects how little time she has as much as I think that she should. That would be my criticism of Vivian, though that's a very, very tiny one. Realize that you're not going to get to talk much, especially when those two are in here. Do not waste your little bit of talk time on insulting the moderator. Don't waste your little bit of talk time on like giving a digger an insult or dealing with somebody who made a sly remark. Just move past it, right? Because the more seconds that you spend, the more minutes you spend on that, those are like whole percentage points of your entirety of like your contribution to this conversation. If you lose 2 minutes addressing what that dumb fuck said in the middle of your statement, that is like 2 minutes of like a 5-minute statement that you had, or like that's 2 minutes of like 20 minutes of talk time. That's 10%. That's a lot of time. Don't waste it on those people. Don't let them rob you of that, right? Just keep that in mind. You don't have a lot of talk time, so be better with it. And sometimes you're long-winded in making some of your points, or you meander a little bit, or you get a little bit, I don't know what the word would be, but watch back some of your statements. I don't have line by line here. If I did, I would have pointed this out and used more specifics. I'm sorry that I don't have that for you. But again, like I said, it just takes too much time and I can't keep doing that for people. If people want to pay for that, that's cool, but I don't want to spend time on it. But, you know, I look back at the way that you handled what little talk time you had and see if there are ways that you could have rephrased things to get your point out sooner and to really impact the conversation.
I wish Prim could get
more.
some non-meme Republicans on their panel. The one they did get offered absolutely nothing, and it was embarrassing whenever he opened his mouth.
Yeah. Well, no comment, dude. Yeah, no comment from me, dude. Anywho, let me go ahead and continue on here. If anyone on the okay, that I said that. Let's see. Instead, okay, I already read that. All right, so we're down to here. At about 1:45 in, she notes it's hard to defend against Destiny's claims that every leftist misappropriates the label of fascist when Vaush is sitting next to her levying the complaint at Bush. It's more fair to say he laid the groundwork for future fascistic policy rather than attributing the label to his actions during his campaign. Completely reasonable point from Viv. It is a point that we could have built off of if Vaush would have claimed to or if that would have come out sooner and Vaush would have had the opportunity to take Vivian's argument as his own and kind of move forward that way. I know he has no problem completely going back on anything that he said, even if it's in literally the same exact conversation. He makes clear and explicit as much in this conversation where he says, I'm okay with walking stuff back immediately after saying it. I don't have a problem with that. That's the way the panels work, baby. You know, cool. That's fine by me. She had some really good examples of that. Maybe you should look to Vivian for getting your ass out of the clear on a lot of these problems, because Viv seems to be able to do that in a way that you were not able to figure out how to in real time. She would have been a great asset to you, but
That
oh well.
fucker.
2 hours and 17 minutes in, Vivian advocates for a more colloquial form of fascism, which is the obvious next step to counter an argument like Destiny. So we want to create and separate another term that is meant to represent like common parlance and how people normally use the word. And maybe that one could be vacuous. You could argue that. Maybe that one's not super helpful, but at least we divorce it from the actual like academic term, and then we can reserve that one for use in conversations, right? Because what Stephen is attempting to do is to remove that from the dialogue altogether. That's what it feels like, because it's even removed from this discussion, which is meant to be something that is closer to, you know, intelligent people having a conversation. There can be proper academic terms helpful for categorization and specificity and scholarly discussion, but there also tend to be colloquial versions used in common parlance. This is a point that the producer lady of the show brought up as well. You can think that the colloquial use is vacuous or divorced from its academic use, but that's different from telling people they ought not to use the word for fear its definition could change in common parlance, right? Unfortunately, this change happens to varying degrees with many scientific, political, and academic terms. Destiny argues that you should just say the component parts of your common parlance definition. So as in, if you think it's like racist people that want authoritarian control, maybe just say the person's racist and authoritarian. Maybe don't call them fascist, right? That's his argument. In to use the exact example that was used in the conversation, which I have noted here for myself, the two parts of the definition that he wants to be independent are going to be ultra-nationalistic and particularly racist. That is the exact wording of those two. But in my opinion, that's a bit unnecessary and ignores how language develops, right? We naturally come up with words to represent increasingly complicated ideas. The component parts of those could certainly be used in place of the word itself in the sentence, but at a functional level, there is no difference between those two. The problem you have is that word that is a stand-in for the other two words is different than the way it's used in academia or in deeper political discussions. And you can have that problem, but the solution is not to remove the word from the diction of the everyday American. Like, that's not the way to handle it. The way to handle it is to understand what the colloquial use of the term is, work around that. And if you really want to have a discussion about the deep political beliefs or whatever, you want to have an academic discussion, go have an academic discussion, but this isn't it. Why are you treating this conversation as if it's meant to be that academic discussion when you, of all people, Stephen, should be well aware that that's not the nature of Twitch politics panels? I don't know. I do know because it's for the sake of your argument, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. As like a dude who's a streamer who understands what you understand. Unfortunately, this change happens to varying degrees with many popular... Oh, I already read that. Okay, where did I leave off? It's much easier... Oh, yeah, here we are. But in my opinion, that's unnecessary and ignores how language develops. It's much easier for the few that understand the academic term to bear in mind different people have different definitions of the word and to understand that. In much the same way that Wolf understands that people all across the world think of socialism as very different things and includes that spectrum of beliefs in his understanding of the term and its usage by other people, right? Beyond that, Wolf had his own pet definition and likely set aside space in his mind for how other people he engages with, whom he can assume are uneducated in the topic, use that term, right? He's able to hold in his mind that different people use the term differently. Here's the gradient of its usage. Here's what I personally think the term means to me. And that's how it is. You have a nuanced opinion about the term itself. There is no nuance in saying that people can't use the word because they don't understand the technical definition of it. There's a common parlance one, and you need to create a separate definition in your head, the way that Webster and other dictionaries do, for what that common parlance uses. What is the different usage of this word? It's not that hard for you to maintain in your head those different definitions. The obligation should be on you. If you understand the scientific definition of the word, or in this case, like the academic definition of the word or the scholarly usage of the word, that's fine. But you're a unique individual with unique access to that information, and you should compartmentalize that into a different part of your brain. You start having a scholarly discussion with scholarly people who are using the word differently, you can change your tune and start using that one. But when you're discussing it with normal people who do not have access to that definition, you have to deal with what their definition is. And this happens all throughout language with every single different word. And if you're an expert in anything, in any kind of field, you have to deal with this. There are novices and new people to your craft or your what you're up to, and they're not going to know what the terms mean. Maybe they've heard it before. Maybe they've heard gaslighting before and they have some idea of what it means. Or maybe they've heard, even something like manipulative. Manipulative means something different when we're talking about it in like a clinical or like a psychological, study than it does when we're using it in common parlance. So does gaslighting. So do all of these terms. Same with a lot of the fallacy terms that you guys use, in my opinion, inappropriately. Some of these terms are just not used very well here. Like, for instance, Destiny's use of Gish Gallop, I don't think was super duper fair. But you get away with it, do you not? You certainly do, because you get to use words however you choose to use them, and different people use them differently, and you have to kind of work around that. That is a reality of things, and to suggest that people just don't use the words altogether is a silly and childish conclusion to reach, in my opinion. It's not thinking very far ahead. Anywho, so while I understand the frustration with this point, the solution likely isn't to stop using the word. It's probably to adapt to the varying uses among people you interact with, be more flexible, which is something that Destiny's not good at least conversationally. I couldn't speak for anything else. You can just as easily dodge the term and discuss its component parts too, right? You can do that. The burden doesn't need to fall on the other person to break that word down into its two component parts and talk about them that way. You can do that. The other person can say fascist. You can ask what they mean by that. And then moving forward, you can avoid using the term, even if they use it. And you can, again, just swap it out. So what they say, I'm tired of these fascistic leaders, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I agree. I think that ultra-nationalistic and super racist policies and leaders are like an increasing problem. And we're seeing this in countries all across the world. And it's like a worrying trend, right? You can still have that conversation without using the term. If you expect other people to do that, you could just as easily do that yourself. So this is a matter of flexibility. And you're simply putting the onus on your interlocutor to behave differently when you could just as easily do that yourself. So I think that's the better solution there. The burden of adapting language doesn't fall solely on the other person. It can be achieved by a shift in approach from either side. Given Destiny thinks he knows better than others in the conversation about the term, perhaps he should take the responsibility for making that change. Rather than arguing with people about the word itself, creating the exact kind of conversation he poo-pooed at the beginning, where people do nothing but discuss definitions and labels, right? So if he's going to poo-poo that kind of conversation about meta labels and whatever, he's certainly going out of his way to facilitate that in his approach to the conversation. Anywho, that's all of my notes. All right, I'm going to go to my my YouTube again. I mean, my Discord. So if you go to stream discussion at me, I'm going to read those. How does this square with your dislike of bringing up philosophical terms in discussions? That's why I don't bring them up, because it frustrates me that other people use them improperly. So I'd much rather talk about ideas, hypotheticals, situations, and how people choose to respond to those and build those patterns in my head for me than to use those in a conversation with somebody who's not going to understand what I mean by those, right? Like, that's why I'm sympathetic to Destiny here. Like, yeah, I feel that. No, God damn it, I'm empathetic. I definitely feel for him. I feel that same thing with all sorts of other terms. But the difference between he and I is, I think, the more... Don't say that. Hold on. Let me word this a lot better, because that was going to sound really yikers. I think the more mature approach to this is to simply take the stoic one and change it on your own from your perspective. You have to be better. You have to take responsibility. You need to handle the conversation differently. That's why I choose not to use philosophical terms. That is a choice I get to make, because I cannot enforce that choice on other people, right? I can advise you guys. I can use my platform to say, maybe don't do this and yada, yada, right? And give you my opinion and try to propagandize you to my position. And that's what I'll do. That's what I think I have a responsibility to do. But when I'm in a conversation with somebody, I'm not putting the onus on them to, you know, meet up with all of my pet peeves or all of my hangups, right? So I you know, that's how I handle philosophy stuff, you know? I handle with a different set of vocabulary in my head, you know, the way that people are talking. I think that some of the blame is on Vivian as well. She's really bad with adapting to the format. Well, that's what I said, is that Vivian needs to keep in mind that she doesn't have a lot of time to talk, and she needs to use that time more efficiently, better. Wow. Thank you for that. That is 3 months. 3 months. Cool. Glad to have you for 3 months. And Salavala, who I didn't comment on earlier. Thank you. You've been around a while. At Booksmarts, do you think that that idea translates to when people fight over things like sources? Probably. You would have to be more specific for me to like agree wholeheartedly with you, but probably. How would have worked out if Destiny just ignored Vaush's insults directed towards him? Probably not as good. I honestly think he got a lot out of that conversation by choosing to be rhetorical and point out the meta level problems of what Vaush was saying. This seems to be what benefited him, because I read the comments on the YouTube video and comments on the Reddit about Vaush's performance, and they seem to be more or less echoing what Steven had pointed out. So clearly, Steven pointing that stuff out did a lot for him. I don't know if ignoring Vaush's insults would have led to a better conversation, because I just don't know if he's equipped to have a better conversation with Vaush outside of doing those things. That sounds mean, but like I don't know how the conversation would have went had he not done that. But I'm a philosophy grad. I have to use my degree in internet debates. Well, you could try to, but nobody else was in your degree program. The kinds of debates you'd have with other people in your degree program are going to be very different than the kinds of debates you're going to have with Twitch people who are completely uneducated on your field. So Up to you, dude, but you know, that's not something I would do. I appreciate your suggestion of dealing with people that are just shitters. I put this to use at work and my mental health has improved. Oh, that's good. That's good. They just won an argument and I'm not biting anymore. Roast meter no longer needed, at least for me. I'm happy for you, Allison. That's good. Yeah, you really don't have to give energy into people. Like, do we have any economists in the chat? Anybody? Any monetary policy goons in the chat? Like, you're in charge of the monetary policy or whatever of like your attention and energy. That's what you have. That's what you're in control of when you're a human. You get to choose what you choose to like invest your time, energy, effort, thought power into thinking about. Granted, if you have like issues like depression or anxiety, those take away some of your ability to control that, you know, consciously, but you get to choose more or less where you invest a lot of like your time, energy, attention, willpower, whatever. So choosing not to direct those things into people that literally will just suck it up and do nothing with it is for the best. Yeah. Don't get in arguments with shitters. Some people like arguing. They get a lot out of it. So they don't even care about what they're talking about. They kind of just want to argue. They only care about what they're talking about insofar as it enables them to have their next debate with somebody, right? And in this way, I think some people would label them contrarian. But these sorts of people just want to go out and pick fights. And if you're not somebody that gets something out of that fighting, you shouldn't feel like you have to like take them up on that offer, right? Because you're giving up all of this stuff for you just to benefit them, and it's not really equitable in my opinion. I don't think that would have worked out. Yeah, I don't know either, dude. Your poor teeth, Doobie. Wait, what? What did Doobie do? I think the Vaush misremembering became an issue this time as well. He thought the women that made the butterfly ballots was a Republican. Well, you know, I don't want to comment on that anymore. I'm done with it. I've made my point about it. I have videos that are done outlining that. If people really want to learn about that, they can go do that. But I'm done commenting on it, to be quite honest with you. Booksmarts, to clarify, when we fight over a word like fascism, I see a lot of parallels when people debate over sources. There are places to debate academic material, but it doesn't seem like anyone is capable of having that discussion, which can take a lot of time. And so they try to use them as bats or to beat each other over the heads with, wasting good discussion time. Yeah. Okay, well, that's the end of that. Let's see. How long have we been live for? That's my question. How long have we been live for? Because depending on how long we've been live for, I'll see if I can fit in the YouTube video requests thing. Oh, okay, 2 hours. I'm getting so much better at these debate reviews. I know nobody's going to pat me on the back for that, but hey. And that's just raw stream time, baby. That's not even not counting the intro with the music and shit. Just saying. That was a 2.5 hour conversation that I managed to do a complete review of in, I would say, less than 2 hours. So there you go. I'm getting better. That's a business smarts move right there, dude. Not long enough. Yeah. I hear that a lot. Good job, Book. The YouTube vid is getting better. That's good, dude. That's good. Better than too long. Too long is a problem that we can't solve, right? Like, people just aren't going to take it if it's too long. They simply can't. Their brains can't take it. Let's see. Okay. Not watching the actual debate helps. It most certainly does. I think I'm going to do this more often. And what's cool is, if I do this in a little bit of a better way, like I make sure that all of my notes are time-stamped and whatever, I can make it really easy for my editor to include clips of all that too. And then we don't have to waste time watching it live on stream. You guys have seen it 3 fucking times. It's a cringe debate. Nobody wants to fucking listen to that shit. So I think it's better that I do it that way. And then my editor will be able to fill in the gaps, you know? So that's, think your editor will clip in bits from the, yeah. I like that you crossed it out. Yeah. I think they will. Yeah. Anywho, not being about to read chat helped you out here, Book. That too, probably. That too. That's, you know, that's a fair point to bring up. It could very well be that not having to deal with the chat had an effect on the timing here. Okay, let me find a video that I want to watch real quick. I got a lot of follows and subscriptions and stuff. That's really cool. Thank you, everybody. I forgot to turn off follow alerts when I went live, but it's not that big of a deal. And thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. I'm going to put a note for next time in my workflow, though. I definitely have to turn off follow alerts if I'm going to do a review. It's good that I set up the mic filtering thing to where it'll... Wait. Oh, no. Is that not set up on this computer? I don't think it is. Oh, fuck, it's not. I've been thinking this whole time that I was on my desktop computer where it'll lower the desktop volume every time I start talking. So I thought that if I just keep talking over the alerts, so you guys will be able to hear me. You may not have. I'm very sorry about that. I honestly thought we had a compressor in. I'll add that. I'll add that. Fuck, man. I don't have my compressor on. Now I see the value of that tool. Okay. Oh, no. Yeah. Let's see here. Let's see here. I have 1.1 thousand people watching on YouTube. Jesus Christ. Thanks for watching, dude. Do a food smarts video? Nah, fuck that shit, brother. I'm not doing no fucking food smarts video. I mean, maybe part of the travel vlog that I'm recording for Tijuana. Again, subscribe on YouTube. All these people that are on YouTube, hello, subscribe. Fun content on the way. Not necessarily debate related, but might be interesting to watch nonetheless. Yeah, I'm gonna go to this place called Taco Alley. I think that's what the gringos call it. It's exactly what it sounds like, a bunch of tacos. And what else am I going to do? Oh, yeah, go to the bar where allegedly you could smoke weed. There's a few other things. Go downtown and take pictures of zebras. There's a lot of like fun shit that we'll do, and I'll try to document and make a video out of. I've never done the travel things before though, so you'll have to bear with me. I had to talk to a bunch of my friends in private about this because I keep deleting my edit projects because I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't know what I'm making. I don't think people will like this, you know? So maybe with my editor's help, I won't have to worry about that part of the creative process and she can just, you know, make that happen. All right, let me find the video that I want us to watch here. Ah, it's this one, yes. Okay. Yes. Excellent. All right. Let's see here. YouTube. Oh, it's on the right screen. Amazing. All right. So this video that we're going to watch is what I would consider to be a very cordial argument, a very cordial discussion, you could say, between people that very much so disagree. So this is from a channel on YouTube called InRangeTV. Basically, they cover... Thanks. Basically, they cover gun stuff, gun history, like... They cover weird stuff. How do I explain this? Like, one of their videos is about how what the fuck is it? Fuck it, dude. I'm not going to give him an intro. It doesn't really matter that much. They cover guns and stuff. And they're intellectuals. They know about the history of guns. They know about their mechanics and stuff like that. And in this video, they're going to have a little bit of an argument about bullpups, which they'll explain what that is in a bit of a second here. Let's play this.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on InRangeTV. This is the result of, well, after Carl and I did a bunch of shooting and testing and tinkering with the MDR. This started off when we shot it at SHOT Show. We were both actually kind of excited about it. It was pretty cool. And not quite so excited about it after doing a bunch of our own shooting with one. And this triggered just this series of discussions about bullpups. Like, why? Are they justified? Are they not? And we talked about this for like 3 minutes and then went, you know what? We should stop talking about this and we should just do it on camera because I think it's an interesting discussion. I think there are a lot of, well, we see it all the time. In fact, over on Forgotten Weapons, anytime I have a even slightly weird layout gun, I get deluged by comments of, well, was that a bullpup? Like, is that technically a bullpup pistol?
Wow, thank you. I got $1.99 super chat, extra money just for bringing in range. Yeah, they're amazing. I love their stuff. Particularly, I like Ian. I'm a member of the Ian cult. If you guys hear me mention Ian is this guy right here. This guy right here runs another YouTube channel, and it's called I love that. Ian runs another channel called Forgotten Weapons, where he talks about some weirder firearms. So, for instance, he wow, that's a lot of shit that is just happening in the chat. Thank you for all of those, everybody, from Science Cheese gifting a gazillion fucking subs. I don't know how many, but thank you, brother. You're being quite the oiler today, Mr. Science Cheese. Really, for real. Like, good God, that's gonna be a lot of subs. I feel like I'm Mike from PA. All these oilers around me, all these whales, dude. I feel like I'm swimming in the deep blue ocean. It's kind of crazy. But so Ian runs a channel called Forgotten Weapons. One of his most recent like Kickstarter projects that he worked on was a book about Chinese knockoff warlord pistols. So basically what happened is in China during this period of history called like it was when warlords are fighting with each other and fighting for dominance over different regions of that country. They would like copy firearms designs from other countries and other companies, and they were made by hand. There would be like machinists and stuff in China that would literally like look at the parts of the gun and pictures of the gun and try to replicate it. And what's funny is you end up with like really weird firearms, like the rangefinder on the top to adjust the sights of the gun so that you can, you know, shoot farther away and still hit in the middle. Things like this were like not labeled properly. The numbers didn't mean anything on the gun. They would replicate like seals that meant that like things are approved by different governments without knowing what those seals meant. Like it's very funny, and they have to figure out how the internal mechanics of the guns work without having like the sophisticated tools and know-how to like replicate that. And some of them are just working off of like information about the guns and not even the physical guns themselves. So what they end up coming up with is super duper interesting. And because they're all like one of a kind and they're made by hand, he has this entire book where he goes through those. So that's kind of like what he covers on his channel. It's a bunch of like funky firearms and talking about them. So if I say Ian, it's this guy, and I really, really like his stuff, in case you can tell.
Right. And there's a ton of interest in this word, but to quote the guy, I don't think it means what you think it means.
So why don't we define what you think you would define the word bullpup?
So bullpup is when you have the action behind it.
Look at that. Let's just start off the bat already. I know that you guys will hit me with the book smarts. We need to get the definitions now. If we're going to have a conversation where the word is going to be central in the argument, like in this conversation, the topic is why or why not bullpups. Why should we pick a bullpup rifle? And or why should we pick a bullpup gun? And so we need to define what that is, right? And he gets that right off the bat, naturally. Let's go ahead and define that. What do you think a bullpup would be? What do I think a bullpup would be? And then let's see how they handle differences in that definition. I'm going to put this up to 1.5 because I think it'll be a little bit more manageable for you guys. I think it's a little bit slow. So I'm going to put it at 1.5 and we'll continue.
Okay. And there are a lot of intermediate, like maybe sort of gray area ones, because this is not like some serious technical definition upon which anything really matters. So is the FG42 a bullpup?
I would say it's a 0.5 bullpup.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sort of, kind of, maybe, but it doesn't really matter if it is or it isn't.
No.
Ultimately, what I see with the bullpup is you are trading barrel length for ambidexterity. I think that's the primary
One would argue that you're not giving up. Now, granted, we had some gas issues with this, but you're not giving up ambidextrousness with this or the FS2000, for example.
However, by giving up the ambidextrous...
There you go. I want to disagree with you here. I don't think that a bullpup is just about trading barrel length for what you're talking about here, for it being ambidextrous, because in this gun, that's not the case. That's not at all what's going on there, right? Fucking... When you disagree with somebody, have a fucking example ready. Don't just fucking tell me that you disagree with me. You're wrong. You're a dumb fuck. Don't tell me this stupid shit. Come at me with a fucking example to prove me wrong. Let the example be your argument. And then let me handle that example how I am going to handle that example. And we will move from there. It's not that you disagree with me. It's that you have an example in your mind that contradicts the definition that I gave you. It's not necessarily that you disagree with me as a person or my opinion. It's that you're thinking thinking of something that could discredit that opinion. And then you're interested in seeing how I would handle that, because your assumption should not be that I don't know about that. It may be that he explains, well, what about this gun that's not like that? And Ian actually has a retort that could handle that, right? Be open to the possibility that other people have thought that far ahead too. They could know what you know. So let's see how this plays out.
Granted, we had some gas issues with this, but you're not giving up ambidextrousness with this or the FS2000, for example.
However, by giving up the by getting the ambidexterity, you're giving up the ability to diagnose and clear malfunctions.
I'm going to go ahead and change my. I'm going to give my definition of a bullpup. You give yours. My definition of a bullpup is surrendering all the.
And rather than continuing on that argument, because he totally could, because Ian there did not respond to what he just said. Ian right there gave another point for his definition of bullpup rather than talking about this ambidexterity point. He moved off of it. But rather than say, oh, you just pivoted, oh, that's a new point, now you're fucking gish galloping, now you're giving me 10 fucking points. Okay, how about I give you my definition? Let's see where we can meet.
Benefits and capabilities of a standard rifle for something that has an overall barrel length with almost no benefit.
Now, what's your editorial version?
No, that's surrendering all.
Diagnose and clear malfunctions.
I'm going to go ahead and change my. I'm going to give my definition of a bullpup. You give yours. My definition of a bullpup is surrendering all the benefits and capabilities of a standard rifle for something that has an overall barrel length with almost no benefit.
Now, what's your editorial?
Now, he was smiling there because it's clear this guy does not like bullpups. He just defined it in a way where he's saying you're trading this barrel length for like literally no benefit at all. And so he's kind of baking into the definition. He really don't like these guns. He's not giving a super intellectual take on it. The tone of difference between these two people, Ian with a very technical definition that's kind of hitting upon, check boxes that we could see and we could use to categorize a bullpup rifle. And the other guy on the other side is literally just, I just think these are like inefficient, awful rifles is basically what he's saying with his definition.
No, that's my real version, because it's been my experience with every bullpup. This is the closest to which I would say I feel differently about. And it's not a francophile thing, because I'm not one of those. That's you. The FAMAS is legitimately the closest thing I've found to a bullpup that I'm like, okay, I can see this.
So to me, the problems that you get with something like this is in order to make it hot swappable so that I can go left shoulder, right.
Now, that guy just talked about, the guy on the right just talked about problems that he has with the bullpup design. And he gives... I love this. I love this. This is a strategy that both of these people employ. If you're going to say something, and this is a criticism you guys give to me, and maybe I should follow this advice. When you're going to be handling criticism, cooking in something that is agreeing with the other person or agreeable to the other person is super duper important. That's what he does there. Ian reciprocates that here. So the guy before noted that the FAMAS, which is another bullpup, is actually a gun that he could see working. So while his definition of bullpup basically shits on the entire category of rifle, he does admit that there are one or two that have come close to getting out of that and actually being useful and using this technological complication to their advantage. And as a bit of a side note, the FAMAS is the gun that Ian is holding here, just for reference. And then Ian goes, well, I would totally agree. So there are definitely guns where like there are problems with and that's against his argument. That's not helping him out, but he's going to do that to show he's not fucking crazy. I see what you're saying. I think that what you just said is the truth. I can agree that there are rifles where they have this, and that problem. Let's listen to this just one more time. I'm sorry if this is a broken record. I just love this conversation.
Every bullpup. This is the closest to which I would say I feel differently about. And it's not a francophile thing, because I'm not one of those. That's you. The FAMAS is legitimately the closest thing I've found to a bullpup that I'm like, okay, I can see this.
So to me, the problems that you get with something like this is in order to make it hot swappable so that I can go left shoulder, right shoulder, back and forth without any issue. In order to get that, you have to come up with a weird ejection system. Now, the F2000 did it forward and did it pretty well. This one does it forward, and the concept's good. Our rifle...
And like... So... He's noted that like in order to make it ambidextrous, it takes like changes to the gun, and not every gun does it well. Now this gun does, and they both agree. Okay, cool. So we're in agreement. There's at least some that are okay. You know, we're not both crazy. We don't believe in the absolutes of either side. There are some guns that do not do it well, right? I'm not crazy. I do not believe in the absolute of either side. There are bullpups that have their problems, right?
At least needs a little bit of tweaking to make it work 100%.
Conceptually, this seems fantastic.
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
However, every single one of those systems, even if they work perfectly, they make it very difficult to actually do things like inspect the chamber.
It makes a lot of standard functional administrative things you need to do with a rifle difficult, if not impossible.
Right.
Now, I ran an FS2000 for a couple of years before the whole InRange thing.
And the FS2000 is going to be the gun that they talked about not having these problems. So while Ian brought up a problem that doesn't help his position with, kind of liking bullpups, the guy on the right actually, he agrees with that. He's like, yeah, we can seek agreement there. But I will say that on the note of that gun that you did point out that actually doesn't fall into that actually does a good job, let's talk about that for 2 seconds.
Really was doing it because Bullpup. That was why. And I did it, and I shot it on the clock, and I shot it at matches, and I had reasonable scores, but my scores were worse than they would have been with an AR or an AK, always. And there were reasons for that. There were trigger issues, mushy trigger, crappy trigger. There were some weird balance things. There were issues where if you had to reload or speed reload, those were slower no matter what. If there was a malfunction, which my FS2000 had very few of, if there was, abandon all ye hope who enters here, throw the gun on the ground, transition to your pistol.
But that's not for all bullpups. That's for...
So then he points out, like, okay, so the ejection system may be good, but I had all these other problems, which gets back to his larger point about the bullpup. So you're making trade-offs about the technical parts of the gun at the cost of functionality. You're reducing your barrel length, but you're getting a way shittier rifle as a result of that. And so he goes through that, and he goes through the points mechanically that he had a problem with on that specific gun that they were talking about, rather than generalizing. If we're going to be talking about one gun in specific, let's keep on the topic of the one gun in specific. Here's some other problems that it runs into. How is Ian going to contend with that?
Bullpups that are ambidextrous. I would agree, because this, for example, I have a big, wide open ejection port right there.
So, by the way, I can see that you, one, when you do that, there's a couple things that are going on. One, I can see clearly into the chamber to understand the condition of the gun. I can see that you have done nothing to clean the gun because it's carboned up and absolutely horribly foul.
I will point out in my own defense, it takes about 100 rounds to get up to that point.
Okay,
This is filthy, right?
It is a delayed blowback action. So, fair enough, but it is really dirty in there. But that being said, is you can see what's going on and also can remediate something. So, for example, let's say you had a double feed. Clear? Yep, which is, by the way, the standard manual of arms with an AK, for example. What you do when you have a malfunction in an AK, it's pretty much this. Pull the magazine, run the action, insert the magazine, run the action. Yeah. AR is more complex. However, the AR is certainly mitigatable, and you can still see the condition by looking into the system. Right. You can also get in with your finger. You can do stuff. FS2000, this gun, something goes wrong. FS2000, you're really pushing a button out of the way. You're sliding 2 halves of a gun apart, which you can do, and you can get in there pretty well once that's done, but you're not dealing with a gun that's literally half disassembled. And if something goes wrong, it falls apart. It literally goes into 2 pieces onto the ground. This gun, you're taking off this cover, which is a button to do it, and you pull this piece off, but what you're actually doing is disassembling the gun to clear a malfunction.
And I'll throw in the Keltec bullpups into that same camp.
Yes, I would as well.
Both the 308 and the 223.
And look at that. Like, he points out a bunch of problems with those guns. He points out that the FAMAS, which Ian is holding, is the exception to that. Remember, he said that that's one of the few where he could see that, like, oh, okay, this is why this is helpful. This gun is actually getting all the benefits out of being a bullpup. It is ambidextrous. You can clear malfunctions in the gun. You can see in there really, really well. Maintenance is not a huge problem. Things are handled way better on the FAMAS. So he sees the FAMAS as a good gun. And then he gives some other problems, though. And Ian immediately agrees. Like, I love the concessions on points that hurt your arguments. I think that that's something that you can do in debates to just really build rapport. And I think you need to be across the table from the right person to make that happen. But, like, I love it. And people don't make a habit out of doing this. But, like, I'd like to think that I go out of my way to try to do this. And I think I need to do it more. But, like, it's a very helpful way of keeping up with somebody in a conversation without them thinking you're, like, completely adversarial to them. If you make a good point, let me concede that to you. Let me make clear of that. Let me give you another fucking example. Hell, I'll just give you another one off the top of my head that actually fits in exactly what you're saying. It's just so positive.
Whether it ejects forward or downward, you don't have easy access for inspecting the gun and for clearing any malfunction.
So bullpups that do not seem to have this issue, with the FAMAS is a clear obvious one, the Tavor.
Yep, the Tavor, the Styrofoam.
And look, now he's taking the opportunity. Let me go through the guns that don't have these problems yet again. So the FAMAS, the Tavor, he's going to go through the bullpups that don't meet his negative definition of them.
Now, the Styre has a smaller ejection port. It does, which you can like or not like, but just like this, as long as it's not ambidextrous, you can inspect it, you can clear it. The L85, which is a great example because it requires
reducing overall length without reducing barrel length. My bad.
It's like
I'm not a huge gun guy, so I may fuck up the wording on things and not even have a thing in my brain to catch it. This is a really good content, much better to review conversations you can use as an affirmative example of what to do versus showing shit show debates. Thanks, dude. But yeah, thanks. But yeah, to be clear, you reduce the overall length of the gun without reducing the barrel length. So do I need to explain why this is good, and can I do it well enough to an audience of people on Twitch? Probably not. Probably not. It's because I could explain at the same time why it being ambidextrous is important as well, even if you're not left-handed. So depending on in a tactical situation, if you want to do something like pop a corner with a rifle, it would be helpful for you if you could, depending on the corner, depending on which angle you need to do to safely make a peek over that corner, if you could put that gun into different shoulders. The reason why you can't always do that with a gun by default is because of when you shoot, the cartridge that comes out could hurt you. It could hit you. It depends on like where your face is on the gun and how that cartridge is ejected. So you have to go out of your way to design a gun to be ambidextrous in that way, so that if you're a lefty and you're shooting lefty, those cartridges or the action of the gun is not causing you a problem. So that's what they mean by the ambidextrous part of the bullpups. And then when they're talking about reducing the overall length of the gun, again, talking about in tactical situations, I think that there is a benefit to not having an uber-duper long gun. And that's the complete simplification. People can add on to that or subtract from that or make fun of me as gun people do. I'm not a gun person. That is like my TLDR. It's more tactical if you're able to reduce the length of that gun by putting that barrel back into where the stock is. Normally, that barrel is not going to extend all the way back into the stock. The stock is its own thing that goes back here. However, if you take that barrel, don't change the length, and just tuck it back into that stock, you're reducing the overall length of the gun because you already had space in the stock to put that. But it comes with a bunch of other trade-offs that, again, we're getting into here. We're kind of talking about more. If you want to be so careful about the way that the cartridges are ejected, you really have to think about that. Is it a system where you can swap from one side to the other and you have to do that mechanically? Or is it a hot swap where it doesn't matter? You don't have to change anything mechanically. You can just swap over. Like, what is that process like? And beyond that, what is the process of cleaning it and maintenance and all these other things that they're talking about? And when you have that complicated system to allow for it to be ambidextrous, you have to think about how you're going to clear malfunctions, how you're going to have sight into that little area of the gun, things like that. These are the problems that they're talking about generally here.
There's a big...
A long barrel, this is from Gavin Moody on the YouTube. A long barrel is a serious risk in close quarters engagement due to how leverage works. If someone grabs your barrel, they now control the firearm's point of aim. Ah, okay. So, and they'll get into this later in the video, but a lot of the more urban engagements that soldiers across the world are going through. If you're popping corners, if you're in urban environments like what Gavin is talking about, somebody can grab that barrel around a corner or grab that barrel in general. And if you have a whole bunch of guns sticking out, that can cause a problem for you in tight, close quarters, which is what this person is saying, right? So there's a benefit to having that shorter overall length of the gun while still maintaining that barrel length. So you have all the benefits of a normal rifle or a normal assault rifle, right? So wouldn't you hurt your hand if somebody shoots the weapon you hold the barrel of? You would hurt it a lot less than you would getting shot by it, right? I would imagine. It is good if you live in a small place. There you go. It's good. It's good if you live in a small place.
Big open ejection port. You can pull the mag. You can look at it. You can cycle it. Easy. I have said this about the FAMAS. The FAMAS, there's a lot of guns in this world that deserved a longer development cycle to see where they could have gone. The HKP-7 is a pistol that's an example of that. I think the FAMAS is another because this shows a lot of promise. Even something as simple as a little ejection port cover that went here down the side that would cause the round to eject downward could fix the ambidextrous handling of this gun.
It could, but you would also then lose this ease of clearance.
Maybe it's something you could flip open.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's mitigatable.
Look at that. In real time, I'm just going to throw something off the top of my head that could be a problem with having a cover that would cause the cartridges to go downwards, right? Instead of ejecting up and having the problem of switching the gun and having to go technically in there and make it ambidextrous that way. So if we have all the cartridges go down, then it would be ambidextrous no matter what, because you're not throwing up cartridges that are getting in your face or on your head or your arm or anywhere else. And then Ian says, well, then that's going to take away the ease with which I can just pull this thing back and inspect the action, right? And then the guy says, well, I mean, it could easily just be a flip-up thing. It's not that big of a deal. And Ian's like, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I can see that. Fucking, I love it, dude. I hate that I have to, get this gushy over two people talking like normal human beings, because this is, in my opinion, how normal human beings talk. This is how I talk with my dad, not with my mom because she's not super reasonable, but with people I work with or I used to work with when I did essay write, this is how I would talk to people. It's a constant give and take. Nobody needs to look completely stupid. Nobody needs to look completely wrong. It's a give and take. It's about figuring stuff out. You're having a conversation.
But again, I'm gonna go ahead and say this. Obviously, the French army didn't really care about left-handed or right-handed ambidextrous switching. switching in the field. You know what? They cared about it being left or right-handed, but they didn't care about immediate tactical need to switch shoulders.
Right, and no army really does. You look at the ones that have actually been militarily adopted, the Tavor, the FAMAS, the L85. The L85, there is no way to switch it. Like, you can't even pull parts.
And this guy is much more passive on the right. Rather than immediately disagreeing and explaining that, he goes, you know, and if Ian really wants to give the microphone to him, as we talk about in Twitch terms, give the microphone to him to explain why he's disgruntled about that statement, he could have. That's what that little kind of gives Ian the opportunity to choose to do, but Ian chose not to. Let me explain. This gun, this gun, this gun, that gun. And the guy's slowly just getting beaten back on that a little bit. Okay, yeah, that's true. And there is that one. Okay.
And get new stuff from the armor and make it left-handed. It's only right-handed all the time.
I would argue, however, that over time, lessons in combat and doctrines change.
Yeah.
And perhaps the doctrine of then isn't the doctrine of now, in which things that have been learned, in which that ability to switch shoulders really has a very essential life-saving capability in the battlefield. So maybe back then, now we're like, more important than we thought.
How much of that, though, is the fact that people are doing more urban warfare right now? Because if you're not fighting in a city, if you're fighting in some gorgeous outdoor paradise like this, I think it's a lot simpler for left-handers to take left-handed cover because you're not forced into one specific corner of one alley.
Yep.
And to some extent, I think one would want to be careful of preparing for the last thing. Like, let's come up with a rifle that's perfect for urban warfare in Fallujah, which will guarantee that our next land war is on the Mongolian steppe against mainland China.
Sure.
And now our rifle is, as typically happens, perfected for the last thing, and it kind of sucks at the new thing.
However, let's look at...
So that's what we talked about before with like, and not just me, but the chatter earlier about the close quarters combat. So the benefit of these guns mostly comes in an urban environment where you are in those close quarters, and it does matter, and you don't have the option of picking left-handed cover. You may be stuck as a lefty with cover that's going to compromise you or make you switch to being righty, right? And you want a gun that's capable of doing that, that's capable of adapting to that kind of circumstance, right? And so that's where the value in those guns comes. But Ian's point here is that maybe we're preparing for things like Fallujah or things like these urban engagements, and what's going to end up happening is the next war is going to be completely rural. It's going to be in the fucking desert. It's going to be across vast expanses of land, and then that is not going to matter. You're going to have the freedom to choose what kind of cover you want to be behind, and it's going to matter a lot less that your gun is capable of doing that, right? And you just made a bunch of technical trade-offs, as the guy on the right has clearly made, apparent to us. There's a lot of technical trade-offs here in terms of operating the gun and how it works and how it feels to use. You're getting all those trade-offs for a benefit that may not apply to what the next, the next war or whatever would be. And it's important to remember too, for non-gun people, that when you're talking about military applications are very different than civilian, are different than police, are different than anti-terror. So there are different audiences, essentially, that you have for your different weapons, and military is very particular. Military wants to buy a lot of weapons that are going to work in a variety of different circumstances and places all around the world that they're deployed to. They need to be reliable to a much greater extent than civilian arms. There's an entire trial and testing period. They need to be manufactured very in bulk, and they need to make sense. There's a lot more that goes into picking a military rifle. And so when you have all these restrictions in requirements for a military rifle, it becomes difficult to pick something like this that is so specific and comes with these trade-offs that other options that you have for a military, they're more appealing, right? And so that's like a little bit of context for you guys.
The standard combat rifles of the day, the AR-15 and the AK, they don't abandon that ability, but they also aren't designed for the next war, the last war either. That's true. So that's not necessarily something you have to lose, but once again, guess what? Those are traditional rifles. This is where the Bullpup, I said this, and somebody actually quoted in one of the comments of the most recent video was, I understand the FAMAS is maybe a little different, but no one sat down with the intention of designing a good rifle and suddenly came out with a Bullpup.
See, I don't know that. I think that's a limited statement, because we have two major markets here that we're looking at, military and civilian.
Okay.
And the way I see it, the benefit of a Bullpup has basically no actual use for the vast majority of the civilian market, because the civilian market isn't sitting in helicopters and ATCs with these things.
True.
And it is largely, it's those sorts of things, jumping out of airplanes with them, that drives a trend towards shorter barrels.
Also the increased or included lethality of the higher velocity of the barrel length.
Correct. If you go from like a 20-inch barrel that this has, I should probably have double-checked that exactly before I said it.
Oh my God, it's probably 20.78 or something. But
if you go from a full-length barrel like this has to like a 10.5-inch barrel, a little AR spec ops super high-speed low-drag carbine, you're losing a lot of ballistic potential. Like 20-inch to 10-inch and 5.56 is a tremendous change.
I agree.
And I think that has, in a military application, that has real-world implications.
Maybe. At the same time.
I was about to add, and remember, they're talking about military. They're talking about killing people from far away or from whatever, getting through material or getting through, there's a gazillion reasons here. Reasons that I probably can't explain as well as military people in my chat probably could. I'm by no means anywhere close to being knowledgeable in this at all. I just watch these YouTube videos. So, if this is boring, I can always switch it. I have no way of gauging how much you guys are enjoying this. But for me, this is the kind of shit that actually makes me happy, that I like look at conversation stuff, because it's these two people talking that like, it makes me happy.
And the idea that suddenly, hold on, let me finish this. A long barrel length. Oh, go ahead. You go first.
All the people who are out there going, we need to have 224 Valkyrie because it's 10% more effective.
Yes.
Well, guess what? You could get 30% more effect by just giving your 5.56 a longer barrel.
True.
And look, he intervened not to argue with the dude, but to say some goofy ass shit too. That's why he was acting like a goof and bouncing around to try and interrupt, because he wants to make a goofy comment about how if you wanted more velocity, maybe people would suggest that you use a different kind of round. But that's kind of silly when you could just change the gun. So he's just trying to make a bit of a goof. He's not trying to interrupt this dude to make some giant argument. He's just like intervening with a funny thing.
True. Or you start looking at Wunder Patronen like that M855A1 or other rounds, which may theoretically increase your penetration, etc. And all that velocity matters. But what you see with 5.56 is, of course, increased penetration and increased lethality due to what the round does when it tumbles through medium or whatever, cavitates, or even fragments. That said, I gotta say, I'm obviously not in a combat zone shooting at people. So let's add that caveat because we know it's gonna be in the comments. However, when it comes to what I believe are the ergonomic losses and overall handling, administratively, and speed reduction that occurs to me, even with something which I'd say is best of breed, which is the FAMAS, with let's say full length barrel versus let's say my 8.5 inch barrel on my crank, my Suchka, the UR. I tell you, regular combat ranges tend to be within 100 yards. That 8.5 inch barrel still putting 55 or 62 grain bullets into something at a reasonable velocity. I don't really care. I'd rather have the gun that I can handle administratively, reload quickly, and know all the ergonomics around it, and have the speed advantage of that gun with the increased or the benefit of the length, and not worry about all the weirdness that comes with this.
See, I think if you're in a military context, again, that weirdness is not weirdness. Like, if you take someone and you train them from start to finish on whether it's this or any other bullpup, where they're used to grabbing the magazine back here instead of grabbing the magazine up here, I don't think there is that much of a speed difference. I think the fact that you're faster on an AK, you're right-handed. The charging handle's on the wrong side for you. The safety is on the wrong side, and far from the best sort of safety it could even be.
It was greatly mitigated by some of the improvements, but
and you practice with that rifle a lot.
I agree.
You can run that rifle really well. If you took the same amount of time that you spent shooting AKs and shot one specific layout of any bullpup rifle, which is exactly how this works in the military. You don't go in and every month you get a different issue rifle, a totally different configuration.
Fair.
I don't think you would see a speed difference. I think that's one of the big things that the Israelis have been touting with the Devor, is that it's not actually slower.
Yeah.
And I think there's legitimacy to that, but not in a civilian context. It only applies if that's like the only rifle that you've used, or if you've used that more than an AR, more than an AK. And nobody does that. We have a market massively dominated by the AR and the AK.
It's all true.
So should you as a civilian look for a bullpup to buy? I think the clear answer is no.
Well, there's still...
Okay, there we are. I missed all of that. I wasn't really listening. I was stressed out that I wasn't able to exit full view mode. My bad. I think we're more or less good with this. I actually I'm so concerned about watching this because I feel like nobody's going to enjoy it. If you want to review more cool cordial debates like this, you could do Chomsky versus Foucault sometime. Isn't Foucault French? How did they debate? Does Foucault speak English? Does Chomsky speak French? I'm confused because I was not aware of either of those. Unless they had a translator. These are a lot like the discussions I have with other flying guys about different military aircraft. I think that the fact that bad ideas kill in this business leads to better discussion. Ooh, maybe. That's a good point. We already hit the drama? What? Yeah, we did.
Issue rifle, a totally different configuration. Fair. I don't think you would see a speed difference. I think that's one of the big things that the Israelis have been touting with the Devor, is that it's not actually slower.
Yeah.
And I think there's legitimacy to that, but not in a civilian context. It only applies if that's the only rifle that you've used, or if you've used that more than an AR, more than an AK. And nobody does that. We have a market massively dominated by the AR and the AK.
And so Ian's point there about the strangeness or the weirdness was, it's strange to you, right? And in your example, you're using a gun that you're very, very familiar with. You're saying, well, if I had the choice, I would pick the gun that I'm familiar with. Well, of course you would. But it's not because the other gun is strange, it's not going to be strange to people in a military context. When you've done all of your training, all of your reload drills, everything with a FAMAS, you're going to be used to having that magazine on the back. You're going to be used to the functionality being on the back and the action being on the back and checking it, doing all these things. You're going to become used to whatever you're trained in. So this weirdness argument isn't as good for a military application, because in a military application, you're going to train the fuck out of yourself with that gun, and you're going to be used to the quirks of it. They're not going to be weird to you. So it's not really a factor that you need to consider. And he does it in a very fair way, I think, without making the dude look dumb or anything else, you know?
It's all true. So should you as a civilian look for a bullpup to buy? I think the clear answer is no.
Well, there's still the SBR thing with the NFA, which is a whole other thing on top of that. You could have a shorter length rifle in a bullpup that you couldn't have without going through a $200 tax stamp and legalities.
Honestly, the arm braces have gotten rid of that.
Well, yeah.
For practical purposes.
That's another thing, but
It's a different thing, yeah. But really, I mean, the advantage to this is I have to have a short overall length because I'm in an APC, or a helicopter, or I'm a paratrooper, or I'm any number of things that are basically not applicable to the civilian consumer market.
I'm willing to concede your point with the FAMAS and the Tavor. The other one's not so much.
But, and I think what we're seeing there is you're not willing to give
A concession!
up the ability to actually inspect and clear a rifle.
I'm not willing to give up the ability to actually clear a malfunction, which all mechanical things have in the field with some form of expediency or sense of urgency.
Even if the rifle is literally perfect, ammunition, magazines, these things also cause problems
Mud,
eventually.
Dirt, anything.
Right.
And so any of those things that can happen when the Great Magnet wills that it's your day for your gun to malfunction, which it will. I've had an AK where I had a full cartridge. I'm not kidding. I've seen this. It happened to me.
Yeah.
A full cartridge landed up behind the bolt carrier group in the action. Inexplicable. Dust cover was in place. Unknown. Magic. Like, the point is, and these guns are very reliable, and my AKs have been very reliable, so are my ARs. But it happens.
Weirdness happens, yeah.
It happens. And when it happens with this, you're doing open heart surgery. When it happens with the FS2000, you're dissecting it and literally maybe losing parts in the field. Or with this, or even the Keltec, something occurs and you can't necessarily see the chamber. Right. You don't really know what's going on. Is that gun clear? Is it not clear? Is there a round in the chamber? Is it a stuck case? Did I tear a rim? All of those things which cannot be visually identified and remediated quickly by opening up the action, seeing what's going on, is a no-go for me.
So what I'm getting out of this is if you want a bullpup, I think you pretty much have to be willing to give up ambidexterity. Maybe you can convert the gun to whichever side you prefer, but it will stay in that configuration.
Unless something's done where it'll eject properly. Like you can kind of switch with a Tavor, sort of.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's
kind of sort of is okay, but you can't try to get that 100% perfect ambidexterity without giving up something that, in my opinion, you shouldn't give up. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to be able to clear it.
Yep.
I would rather have a gun set up like this, only left-handed. I can't switch it to right-hand shooting, but I have access to it. I'd rather have that than one, even if it runs perfectly like this, that I don't want to make that.
That's a really good point. I think that's the point. Are you willing to give up or what is the more important trait of the rifle? The ability to clear it and deal with malfunctions in an expeditious way, or the ability to handle it ambidextrously but give up clearing it when something goes wrong? Right. It's really that simple an answer.
And if you don't want to have to choose, then you get a traditional rifle, where you get both.
And then one may argue that may or may not be a problem, depending on your situation and your environment. Or you deal with my Suchka and you deal with a shorter barrel with decreased velocities. You have all of those benefits, but the detriment of less penetration in terminal ballistics.
So I think the mythology surrounding just the word bullpup, because man, that is such a trigger for people.
I think the mythology around any gun that's unique is a thing. Like, you know what? If people were developing new blow forward pistols today, everyone would want.
That's the cool new hotness.
Everyone would want a new blow forward pistol, or they would think they did until they fired one because physics.
Yeah.
It looks cool. Wow, that's amazing. And then you fire it and you're like, wow, physics are working against me in every way. And with some of these bullpups, I'm not pointing at this one in particular, any of the ambidextrous ones like the FS2000, where you can't deal with these issues well in the field, you are surrendering to a...
Now, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Blow forward for the military or gun people in the chat. Those are those pistols like the old Ruger where they have the clip that goes forward, right? Like if it's pointed like this, you would shoot and the top thing goes up like forward and then back rather than blow back, which would be the slide goes back and then forward. Is that the difference between those two? That's the only one where like I don't know if I have the context to remember what that phrase means. Just out of curiosity. They can't argue with each other or throw ad-homs. They have guns. Someone called this a perfect faith conversation. Yeah, it really is, dude. It's like you're arguing in your head. My brain can't handle good faith debates. When will they throw ad-homs at each other? When will I touch grass? I don't know, dude.
Or reality that you may not realize is a problem until it occurs.
Right. So, but on the other hand, again, if you're buying this because it's cool and you like it, and it's a fun gun for you, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe if you have to pull it apart in the field every once in a while, or at the range, who cares?
That's an emotional thing that we see on the channel all the time. Is we say something negative about something and have someone has a connection to it because that's their favorite something. I don't care what your favorite something is. We're not here to coddle that or say vice versa. We're here to say what we think about these guns, the designs and the architecture and the history around them. Some of the guns I like a lot are kind of garbage, but they're fun to shoot. And so if you said, for example, the broom handle Mauser is a piece of garbage, I'm going to say yes, it is a piece of garbage. It was obsolete very shortly.
I love this. Like even there, he disagrees with them, but he's saying like. But we had to be honest on this channel. If it's garbage, it's garbage. I have shit that I like this garbage, but I'll admit when it's garbage. That's what I expect from other people. But, you know, there are people in this channel that are going to comment. They're going to be mad because we made fun of whatever gun is their pet gun. But I think that there's something to being able to admit that while it is your pet gun, while it is something that you like, it isn't necessarily God's gift to earth. It has problems with it. And being able to identify those problems on this channel and have our viewers be able to identify with those problems as well is probably something that he wants, right?
After its introduction, the Luger made it a really an obsolete gun almost immediately. Yeah. Is it interesting mechanically and fun to shoot? Sure is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. But is it a good gun? No, it's not a good gun. So that's where we're at with that. Guys, I think that was a real interesting conversation, actually. Yeah. I'm glad that we did this on camera and not just in the car.
Right. Yeah, we didn't rehearse this or script it because we figured it'd be more interesting just off the cuff, which I think it was.
Hopefully, you guys think so too, because Patreon supporters pay for this kind of stuff for us to be able to do it.
Yes.
There
So
you
it's you
go.
guys that make this channel viable, because we don't take monetization from anyone, and that's Patreon that makes it happen. If you can't do that, please consider just subscribing to one of our multiple channels on InRange.tv and share with your friends. And where else do you see a FAMAS with a bipod being deployed while someone's talking about Patreon?
I've got a bipod.
You've got a bipod.
No other bullpup out there has bipod on it. Not a free-floated one like this.
It's not integrated.
Nope.
Needs swivel, though.
Yes, it does.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. So that's Ian McCullum and Carl Casarda from InRangeTV. Check them out on YouTube. They're kind of fun.
There's
I
some things I have to deal with.
I don't know if we want to watch this. I don't know if we want to watch this one. So this one's over an hour long, and it's from Paul Harrell. Now, Paul Harrell is a very long-winded fella, and he's responding to drama here. So I don't know. If you guys want more of like something interesting, like a secret video that I'm not going to go over on stream, but you want to watch it, I would say look up Rebuttal by Paul Harrell. Even if you don't know what's going on with this drama or whatever, I think you can appreciate his approach and his carefulness in you know what, actually, let's do his it should be recently in my likes. Yeah, okay. Let's watch his Miami-Dade shooting analysis. Let's do that, because I think this is going to be a more fun introduction to what this guy does and why I like him. So he has a background. I'm pretty sure he'll explain it in the video, so I'm gonna leave it. What I particularly like about him stylistically is his attention to dissenting opinions in the comments. That's something that I have. I structured a lot of my, particularly my early and my middle career content around what I'm seeing in terms of critical feedback, right? Accounting for that before it even happens. Like, what can I do in terms of disclaimers or other things to make sure I don't get these boneheaded remarks, you know? Because part of the purpose of my videos is to educate and get people over some mental hurdles that they have about how a debate went or how their pet debater performs. And I didn't have the kind of I don't have the authority that I kind of have now on the platform, where people kind of understand what I do, and there's enough people that can explain it to, like, you know, soften that a little bit and ease people into like accepting the criticisms a little bit more as parasocial fans. So he doesn't have that benefit as much, and so he is constantly working against that, right? And I really love this video in particular. It's very, very well done. It's about the Miami-Dade shooting, and he'll kind of explain what that means and what is significance and all that in the video. So let's go ahead and watch it. I'll have it at 1.5 again. Enjoy.
Hi, today we're talking about the FBI's famous 1986 Miami-Dade shootout. Recently, I did a presentation comparing the 9x19 to the 40 Smith & Wesson. The subject came up, people asked for my analysis on it, so here we are. Now, this subject comes with a laundry list of caveats, disclaimers, and yabbits, including you're going to have to put up with my Shatner-esque pauses and my very annoying habit of transposing letters and syllables. Also, everything I tell you today is based on my education, my knowledge, my training, my experience, and the resource materials available to me. And resource materials don't always agree with each other. Also, all the opinions I have are just that, my opinions, and they're based on my training, my experience. Different people have different experiences, so they have different opinions. Now, there's one other thing. Bear with me. Obviously, I was not there on that day in 1986, so the question comes up, who am I to tell you anything about it? And that's a fair question. And who I am is this. In the late 1980s, I was a combat marksmanship instructor at the Marine Corps Security Forces School. This was right after Miami-Dade happened, and it was a big influence on the training I received and the training I conducted. We got a lot of training materials, books, and videos and so forth directly from the FBI. I took a lot of classes on it. I taught the class on it. I even had the opportunity to attend in person a 2-day FBI seminar on the subject. I'm familiar with the event. Okay, that having been said, let's get on with it. There's a few law enforcement shootings that I would consider required reading for anybody who takes firearms training seriously as it applies to concealed carry, personal protection, security, or law enforcement work. And Miami-Dade is at the top of that list. And I want to explain why I consider it so important. Law enforcement firearms selection, firearms training kind of goes along on a path that doesn't deviate very much. And then about every 10 or 20 years, there's a highly publicized law enforcement shooting, usually one where the police get the short end of the stick, that drastically changes the direction that firearms selection, firearms training is going. Miami-Dade is one of them. And there's others too, and there's others that are important, but this one is one I consider the most important. And the best way to illustrate that is, let me back up about 15 years from that to another event known as the Newhall shooting. Now, the Newhall shooting took place in 1970, and you may recall in an earlier presentation I said 1971. We'll come back to that. Now, the very short version of the Newhall shooting is that the police got a call, man with a gun menacing someone or some people. They go out there, it turns out there's 2 suspects, and in a shootout that lasted about 1 minute, 2 suspects killed 4 police officers and then made their escape. They were captured later, but that's the really short version of what happened. And that's one of those events that shocked the world of law enforcement and changed the direction that training was going. But where that's really applicable is, there's a particular part of the Newhall shooting that is very important in what I'm trying to explain. And please, watch the segment in its entirety because there's a punchline at the end. Now, when the Newhall shooting happened, most police officers carried revolvers, and this was before the widespread use of speed loaders. They either had cartridge loops or what were called dump pouches, where you pop it open and just dump all 6 rounds into your hand for reloading. Well, I don't have those, but I have a pocket full of rounds, and that'll suffice to make the point. Now, one of the police officers at the Newhall shooting, armed with a .38 special revolver, similar to this one, fired 6 shots. Then dumped his empty casings into his hand, put them in his pocket because that was a habit he picked up on the range, so he didn't have to pick up his brass, ducked behind a car, and started reloading. While he was reloading, one of the suspects charged him, shot him point blank, killed him. Based on that one event, on that one day, it changed the direction law enforcement firearms training went. Now, when my father was a police officer in the 1970s, I got to go to the range and watch them shoot for qualification a couple of times. Very educational. And one of the drills they did was a partial reload drill, and it looked like this. Dump the empties onto the ground, get your dump pouch out, load just 2, drop the rest, and shoot those 2. The idea was that loading those 2 and getting those 2 shots off quickly was, under some conditions, better than taking the time to load all 6. Now let's take a look at the target. Now, I was firing from 15 yards, and I shot 14 shots, and there's 7 hits on each target. And granted, no one's shooting back at me, but the 15 yards is also about double the distance of the Newhall shooting. And now here's the punchline. That partial reload drill was part of the training that my dad received. Years later, it was part of the training that I received. It's been part of the training that I've conducted. But today, I'm reading online sources where people who say that they were part of the Newhall investigation are now claiming that 6 empty casings in the pocket thing never happened. We have based a great deal of time and effort and training on something that's very possibly fiction. And because it was not documented completely, we'll never really know for sure. And that's the problem with a lot of these things, is documentation. There are so many different versions of the Newhall shooting that some sources don't even agree on what year it happened. Which, by the way, it was 1970. I was able to find a newspaper article and read the date on it. And that is what makes Miami-Dade so important, is because it was so well documented. It's one of the best, if not the best, documented law enforcement shooting there ever was. And so when we analyze what went right and what went wrong, we're making that analysis of things that probably really happened. When we take that and select tasks for training, we conduct that training. It's based on things that probably really happened. Now, the second reason that Miami-Dade is so important is also based on documentation. Because it was so well documented, the story does not change over the years. It's not perfect. The story has changed a little, but for the most part, it does not change over the years. Now, for example, what I mean is, in the early 1930s, when the FBI caught up with and killed John Dillinger, we all know the story of the lady in red and so forth. Well, I don't mean nitpicky details like she was actually wearing orange, but she was, but that's not really important. But at the time, the story was the FBI was heroes, they captured public enemy number 1, hooray for them. But as the decades go by and the pendulum swings and it becomes fashionable to dislike and distrust authority figures, especially law enforcement personnel, then stories start getting told about how they shot Dillinger in the back, that he was unarmed at the time, that he was in fact trying to surrender and they murdered him anyway. Now, did any of those things happen? Probably not. But we cannot 100% rule them out due to just a lack of documentation. And so the story changes over the years, and for the most part, Miami-Dade does not. Now, the third...
Now, like, I know I haven't had the opportunity to interrupt because, like you said in chat, he does not miss a beat, which is also why, like, I'm anxious to introduce these people to you because I feel like their content is very, you know, Supreme and I have talked about this before, Wicked Supreme on Twitch, about how you have to pick good React content, and there's good React content and there's bad React content. Bad React content are things that do not have natural lulls or pauses in the content to allow you to intervene or to pause or to do these things. And I would say that Paul Harrell is probably one of those. Now, with the kind of commentary that I give, of course, I could probably pause throughout this if I really wanted to and point out like structural things that I think he's doing to make arguments that I think are helping him. So, for instance, when he makes a claim like, we know it happened this way, it may have, there may be some things that we don't know, but we understand a lot about that, you know. He's constantly giving these little caveats. So if somebody in the comments says, oh, he said this thing and he was 100% on it, and actually he should be 95% on it, he's always covering his ass for those people. And some folks may find that annoying. I may have found that annoying prior to working on Twitch or whatever, but I have a really deep appreciation for somebody who has the foresight to cover their ass for these kinds of people. It takes a lot of work. Whether you think that work is misguided or that time is invested poorly, like, I enjoy it a ton. So this guy will continue to go through and replicate the entirety of the shooting. Let's see if I could just skip to that part here. Let's go here.
He got shot in the arm, severing the radius and the ulna, and it took him out of action. Now, he comes back into action later, but for right now, he's out of it. That puts us down to 7 agents. One of those agents lost his gun, and his participation was running away to the other side of the street to look for it. So that puts us basically with 6 agents shooting it out with 1 man. Now, there were some various things that went on, most of them simultaneously, and I want to cover a couple of those. Let me show you something. One of the agents, armed with a .357 Magnum revolver, was able to take cover behind the engine compartment of a car, not like this one, but a car, and use the hood as a supported position and fire his 6 shots. Let's take a look at the target. I fired 6 shots and got 6 hits, 3 in each target. Now, granted, I did not get shot in the hand like he did, and no one was shooting back at me, but I'm also shooting 8 times farther than he was. He fired 6 shots at a distance of about 8 feet, hitting shotgun suspect once. Then, while trying to reload with his wounded hand, trying to get his rounds in his revolver and dodging bullets, he wasn't able to get reloaded, got shot again, not fatally, but it took him out of the fight. Now, there was another agent with a .357 Magnum revolver, and I want to show you what happened with him. Now, there was another agent armed with a .357 Magnum revolver, and here's one of those parts where there is a little discrepancy in the story. Some accounts are that he lost his revolver, but I think the more accurate one is that he fired all 6 of it. Then, instead of taking the time to reload, he reaches into his ankle holster and gets out a snub-nosed 5-shot .38 Special revolver. Then he charged the situation. Now, of all the failures that people can talk about that day, I'm going to have to say bravery was not one of them. He charged into this gunfight with a gun like this one. Well, he runs up and takes cover behind a car. Now, this time we won't use a car, I'll just use this bench. He ducks down behind the car, and he shoots 3 shots. Ducks for a second, comes back out, shoots his last 2, and then starts to reload. He pulls his loose ammunition out of his pocket, and while he's reloading, he gets shot in the hand and in the arm. Screws up his reload. The suspect charges him, shoots him again, not fatally, but took him out of action. Now, the question I would ask there is, why didn't he have a speed loader? I absolutely know they existed at the time, and I'd have to wonder, why did he not have one? Now, let's try that drill again, this time with a speed loader. Would that have been faster enough to make the difference? I don't know, but it sure couldn't have hurt. Now let's take a look at the target. So how'd we do? I fired 10 shots, got 9 hits. There's 1 flyer, that's just me. And I can make the excuse that I was trying to mimic the way he was shooting, not the way I would have held the revolver. And there's also, of course, the thing that no one was shooting back at me. But I am shooting about 5 times as far as he was. Now, there were a lot of things going on, more or less simultaneously. While those events were occurring, there was also an agent across the street who was using the hood of his vehicle as a stabilization platform while he fired a lot of rounds out of his 9mm, getting maybe 1 hit. There was another agent that had a 9mm with a 12-shot magazine, fired his 12, reloaded, fired his 12 for a total of 24 shots, again getting maybe 1 hit. And then before he could get his 3rd magazine in, he was shot and killed. There was another agent that was also firing a 9mm that scored the hit that's sometimes called the shot heard around the world, where the bullet entered the suspect's arm, missed the humerus, severed the brachial artery, entered the thoracic cavity, perforated the lung, and stopped just short of the heart. As I've said before, a certainly fatal wound without immediate medical intervention, but it was not an immediately disabling one. The suspect went on to fight for more than 3 more minutes. The whole thing took about 4 minutes. And while all this is going on, there came a point where pretty much all the agents were taken out of action, and the suspects were trying to make their escape. And here's where our wounded man with a shotgun comes back into action. Let me show you something. As the suspects tried to make their escape by stealing an FBI vehicle, one of the agents, armed with an 870 shotgun similar to this one, and having been shot in the arm, had to shoot his shotgun one-handed from around the vehicle he was hiding behind. Then after expending all 5 rounds, he advanced on the suspects with his .357 Magnum revolver. But before we do that, let's take a look at the target. And the ammunition I was using in this case was 12-gauge, 2 3/4-inch double-aught buck 9 pellets, so 45 projectiles went downrange, and there's the result. And again, I'm shooting twice as far as he did at a target half the size. But there's a few things you have to take into consideration. That particular agent had been shot in the arm badly enough that he thought at that moment that his arm was going to have to be amputated. Also, he was shooting at 2 people that were in or getting into a car, so he could only see them from about so far up. In fact, his first shot was as the car door was open, and he shot at the suspect's foot below the open car door, and hit the suspect in the foot. Then there's also the matter that, I can't swear to it, but I don't think he had ever been trained on that one-hand technique. I think he made it up right at that moment. And when you take all of that into consideration, the marksmanship he was able to achieve was pretty good. And that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of what happened. Now we get into the part of my analysis of all of that. This case has always been a source of frustration for me, and there's a few reasons.
And if you want to see his analysis, you can check out the rest of his video. There's one other part I wanted to show, and it's a little thing that he puts in here, I think, to like demonstrate to people why whatchamacallit, why it would have been tough to respond better, some of these officers. Let me see if I can find it. He says something about how when this fight starts and the guy looks over, what does he see? And I'm trying to see if I can find that. I wonder where that is in here. Oh, I don't think it's in here. Man. It's got to be somewhere. Oh, there it is.
And then, a few seconds later, as the crash occurred, he ended up crashed right next to the suspect vehicle. And after the cars got stopped, he jumped out of his own car and ran away to look for his gun. And people say that was cowardly. Okay. Once he got stopped, he was taking fire from any 14 suspect before anybody even got out of the cars. As soon as he got his vehicle stopped, this is what he saw. And that's pretty much what that guy saw as soon as he got his car stopped. Gun lost or not, I think getting out of the line of fire was a really good idea. As I said before, bravery was not in short supply that day. The number one malfunction was a complete failure of marksmanship. Now the second thing was a failure of...
Like, even that little thing, like, he's paying a lot of attention to this, and he's making arguments with exactly what happened in the scenario. He's not making sweeping statements that are coming from his personal opinion. He's backing everything with what had actually happened in the event. And this is something that I appreciate as an essayist. A lot of the time when I'm writing papers or when I'm tutoring people on how to write papers, I tell them that all you are doing is stringing together words and thoughts from other people to create a general perspective or a picture of something that's happening, but you're more or less painting that with colors from somebody else's palette. You're more or less painting that with what had happened. What did you read in a source? What historical examples do you have? What examples from class do you have? What quotes from people do you have, right? What sources in general do you have? It's all based on your sources and your references. So when somebody puts together something like this, and I can see that format, that structure in exactly exactly what they're putting together, I have a big appreciation for it. So that's Paul Harrell. I would for sure recommend to check him out. Not the best for React stuff, but today I kind of wanted to, while we're covering a debate panel that is just not in line with what I would like to see on the platform or what I agree with content-wise or what I think is best for people to be spending their time, energy, or attention on, I kind of want to highlight other creators that I feel like are doing a much better job of that or are better examples of the rhetoric that I kind of want to talk about on the channel. So talking about Paul Harrell and his incredibly structured videos, this might be a person you want to look to, even if you don't like guns. You know, I'm not the giant gun guy, but I enjoy all of these channels. And then same with the InRangeTV people and their argument with each other that they had, or that discussion they had, just being cordial. I'll work on finding examples of this from different YouTubers and different TV shows and other situations rather than focusing on debate people moving forward. Now, that might limit me because there's not a constant stream of that stuff. That's up to me creatively to see the potential in, because there is not a whole industry of other React Andy people picking out that content for me. There is not an audience that I can really ask for that. I've asked for that in the vote suggestions for a long time, and I don't really get things that are seeing what I see as being beneficial in conversation. So the audience isn't attuned to that either. It seems to be unique to me. So I'll keep working on that and finding more stuff like this to share with you guys and trying to steer away from many of those debates and panels just because they're not really good examples of how to handle people or how to communicate with people, how to get ideas across, how to be cordial. They're not really indicative of the style and approach that I would encourage for a normal person. Granted, they may be helpful for people on Twitch that want to be successful there and be famous and yada yada, but they're not good for, you know, learning how to converse with people or learning how to get along with people or learning how to get your point across, you know? So that's more or less what we're doing moving forward with that. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me find a place to put the Twitch people for the night. If anybody wants to get their subs, their donos, their bits, whatever out of the way, I greatly appreciate it. It helps me continue to do this. We've had support from some really lovely individuals over the last 2 or 3 days. Huge donations from people, huge amounts of gifted subs. I'm very, very much so appreciative to all of that. I see that as somewhat of a support for this new venture, new direction I'm kind of moving forward into, where I'm doing more travel stuff and YouTube stuff and maybe trying my hand at a different like picture of success or a different platform. I'll still do the Twitch streams. If there's debates that are interesting, I will still review them. You know, it's not quitting on all of that, but it's being transparent with you that I'm trying to make a transition out of that so that you guys know enough to support that content when you see it. If you see a travel video, it comes out on my channel, I would appreciate the support. I would appreciate a funny comment. I appreciate the engagement. You know, it won't be the best thing in the world. I know that off the top of my head, you know, I know that from the beginning, but it's stuff I want to try, stuff that if you see there's something in there you could like that I want to know about so that I can replicate it and I could improve on that moving forward, you know? And because I'm brand new to it, I'm learning a ton every day that I do it. Every day that I go out and try to shoot something, I learn that like, oh, okay, I need B-roll, or I need to film this, or I need better audio here, or, you know, I'm learning that stuff. If we go to my channel, I think the only thing that has come close to this, the only two video projects which I actually really enjoyed making, were the two about Georgia. The interview video that I did and the one introducing Georgia and asking people to come down. I think those are the two where they're the closest I've come to recording things in this way and editing it in this way. Yeah, so these two videos, oh, you guys can't see them, whatever. The videos are titled Georgia Retrospective and Come to Georgia Now. But those are the only two that I've recorded like that, where I know I need to have different angles and subtitles and, you know, put shit together. Thank you for the subs. I appreciate them. So yeah, I'm just trying more stuff, guys, and letting you know so you know to be supportive of me. So you guys aren't just like, what the fuck is Booksmarts putting out this shit for? He's being hella random. I can't wait till the next debate review. Just knowing that, like, how about we try to find what you can like in this, you know? Because I don't want to keep doing that forever. Wow, thank you. Gifted subs and all sorts of stuff going on. Let me refresh this page so I could see what the hell just happened. Has Bookman gone over any Dr. K talks with a fine-tooth comb? No, I have not. Not at all. I actually... Have I? I don't know. I may have, but it's definitely not on the YouTube. I think I may have when I used to only stream on Twitch, but since starting YouTube, I don't think I have. I could though. It's just weird because Dr. K is trying to like do therapy, and I'm not sure I want to like teach people how to do therapy. I don't know if that's like smart of me to do. Has Bookman gone? Okay, so I already answered that. Yeah, sexy smart. Thanks, brother. Okay. Let me find somewhere to put you guys for the night. Although the YouTube audience is today, I think the most significant one. Let me let me find somewhere to put all of you lovely bastards. Let's see here. Let's do I'm Really Important. Why not? I'll send you guys over to IRI. I think I would listen to you read the fucking dictionary book. Well, that's good, given you're my editor. I'm glad you can stand me. You're the one person that probably needs to be able to hear me over and over again without going nuts. So that's good to hear. All right, there you go. Would love to see a review of Dr. K Talk, especially his take on weed. Take on weed, huh? I'll look into it. I haven't heard about that, honestly. Dr. K on weed. Yeah, I can't say I've seen anything. If you want to link it in the stream suggestions part of the Discord, go ahead and do that, because I would love to check it out. I probably need a link, though, because he's got like a gazillion videos, and I'm sure he's done multiple on weed. Anywho, have a good time with IRI. I'll talk to you guys later. The man needs no introduction. He's a legend of Twitch politics, and, you know, I hope we get to keep him as long as we can. Enjoy him. Bye, guys. Mahler did an 8-hour... Wait, oh, fuck. That dude just linked me something. I totally missed it. Oh, well. Rip. Thank you, YouTube people. There were a ton of you today. I supremely appreciate it. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can catch me on the next one, or go to the Discord, go to the README and hit live notifications, and then you can sign up to get live notifications. All that info is in the README, so go ahead and check that out. That'll tell you whether I'm on Twitch or on YouTube, and it'll ping your Discord. So do that. I'll talk to you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay cool and try to have good conversations, guys.